Good evening and welcome to the Joint Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Commissioners meeting of July 9th, 2024. I am Briggs Simmons, the Planning and Zoning Chairman. Prior to this meeting, announcements were posted and notices were sent to all board members, commissioners, staff, interested parties, and applicants participating in this meeting. At this point in time, I'm going to make a little change. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Ms. Allison Duncan, our Planning and Zoning Chair. Not chair, but and she has some announcements and changes for tonight's meeting. Ms. Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the benefit of all here, I wanted to make you aware of a few changes to the agenda. If you are here tonight in regard to application S 2024-35, that is the request from Summit Engineering for a special use permit to allow an RV park located on Highway 5. That has been withdrawn. We have no pending zoning action on that property, so if you are here for that item, we have received notice as of late yesterday that that applicant is withdrawing their application. If you are here in regard to Z 2024-25, this is for an age-restricted community on Bright Star Road. That is not on the agenda tonight. That has been moved to our August agenda. If you are here in regard to the special use permit for the religious institution on Ephesus Church Road, that was S 2024-30 and 31, that is not on the agenda tonight. That has been moved to September. If you are here for the application for a townhome community on Veterans Memorial Highway, that was Z 2024-32, that has been moved to the August agenda. If you were here for the application on South County Line Road, that was a special use permit for metal-sided building. That item has also been moved to the August agenda. And if there are any other questions about the agenda, I'm happy to answer those. But for the benefit of those here tonight, we wanted to make sure that they knew of those changes to the agenda. Of course, everyone is always welcome to stay for the entire duration of the meeting to see how this process goes. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. At this point in time, I'll turn the meeting over to Phil Miller, our Commission Chairman, to introduce and confirm the commissioners present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is Martin Raxton here?
Here, present.
Whitney Jones?
Present.
Mark Alcaraz?
Present.
Ricky Dobbs? He's not here. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Also present, we have members of the Planning and Zoning Board. If you would confirm your presence when I call your name. Rob Thomas, our Vice Chair.
Present.
Teresa Knowles.
Present.
Ori Curry.
Present.
Frank Payne.
Present.
And Kirk Nicholson, our School Board Representative.
Present.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, I'd like to take a personal matter here and welcome the Commissioner from District 3 for his first Planning and Zoning meeting. Welcome.
Thank you.
And also, I'd like to commend Kirk Nicholson. This will be his last Planning and Zoning meeting, and he's been with us for, gosh, he was here when I got here. He's been here a long time. Thank you, Kirk. We appreciate your service. Okay. Allison Duncan will please step back up, our Planning and Zoning Manager, and she's going to introduce the county staff, Planning and Zoning staff in the meeting. Ms. Duncan.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have with us our Chief of Staff, Tiffany Stewart Stanley. We have our County Attorney, Michael Coleman. We have our Deputy Director of Development Services, Travis McDonald. We have our Managing Director of Transportation, Suleiman Rana. We have our Zoning Administrator, Phil Schaefer. We have our Senior Planner, Austin Cronin. We have our Planning and Zoning Board Clerk, Johanna Womack. We have our Planning and Zoning Department Secretary, Kim Waters. And we have our Planning and Zoning Department Intern, Andres Garcia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. There's a reversionary clause that applies to each rezoning, and that is the applicant, the agent, or the property owner has 24 months to vest the zoning change after the Board of Commissioners has granted an approval. As far as tonight's procedure go, I will handle all the public hearing. Planning and zoning staff will announce each application, followed by a full presentation on that application. The applicant or the applicant's representative and members of the public in favor of an application will be able to present their information. They will have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes to speak on behalf of an application. Following that, members of the public in opposition to an application will be able to present their information. They also will have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If after the opposition completes their input or the time has elapsed, I will close the public hearing. At this point in time, the staff will clarify any points of the public hearing. If the staff is unable to satisfy the board's questions, the board may then ask the applicant for points of clarification. And this is not a time for the applicant to represent their case. Planning and Zoning Board will then entertain a motion. Our first agenda item tonight is the approval of the minutes of the June 4th, 2024 regular Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meeting. Planning and Zoning Board members, after reviewing the minutes, do you have any changes, comments, or questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval?
This is Frank Payne. I recommend approval of the minutes for the June 4th, 2024 meeting.
Rob Thomas, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? If not, all in favor of approving the minutes of June 4th, 2024 meeting, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Planning and Zoning Board has approved the minutes of June 4th, 2024 unanimously.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, the June 2024 minutes of that meeting, the Planning and Zoning Board has approved. Do I have a vote or a motion recommended?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, sir. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Schaefer, would you present our next agenda item, please?
Our first item for this evening is the Curley Family Homes. It's Z 2024-14. This is a request to rezone from RA, Residential Agricultural, to PRD, Planned Residential District, for a residential subdivision on Mount Vernon Road in Lithia Springs. Land lot 97S, and it's in District 18, Section 2. That's Parcel 1, and land lot 979, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 19, and land lot 981 in District 18, Section 2, land lot 1006, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 6. The size is about 85 acres. Application signed by Molly Whitman of Curley Family Homes. This evening what we're looking at is an overall master plan. This is a PRD district, so what we're looking at is planned residential districts act a little bit like planned unit developments, so there's a little bit more formality to how these work. What they're asking for is an age-targeted senior combination of both market rate for regular folks as well as some age targeted by building masters on Main, and in order to target seniors for some of the product that they're going to be building. The single-family detached and some villas, which you would conceive of more as like duplexes in terms of how they operate. The total of 75 single-family detached homes. They're requesting approval for 1,440 square feet for those single-family detached products, and then approximately 50 attached villas, 2 units each, with a minimum square footage of 1,440 square feet on each side. So 50% of those they're projecting to be masters on Main as well. And there'll be, obviously, as part of the subdivision regulations, there's some amenity areas that have to be developed for all of the residents and a homeowners association. At the community information meeting held on June 11th, 2024, there were a number of neighbors that attended. Some of the concerns that were expressed involved traffic and congestion. Obviously, that's been one of our big ones for lately for many of our developments. not wanting any connectivity. So there are some subdivisions that were built years ago, I'll show you those in the picture in a moment, where streets were dead-ended instead of being cul-de-saced. And so they dead into this property. So the folks who live in those existing subdivisions were worried about connection from the new subdivision. In addition, the site is bisected by stream, gas pipeline, and power corridor line. So it's a very complicated site to try and develop, given the environmental and physical constraints that are already on the property. So folks were worrying again about wildlife and where's the wildlife going to go, because once this develops, that's a riparian area which is really thick with wildlife. Additional questions were asked about eventual costs of the dwelling, value impacts to the existing homes, sewer and water capacity along with water pressure issues, concerns over attached versus detached, and the applicant's representative offered to provide additional information, some of which was provided. They can explain what was provided when the applicant's representative comes up. In addition, code sections that apply to this will be Article 4, which is the PUD regulations, and then Article 12, which is the zoning procedures and the subdivision procedures. There are no prior zoning cases for this property. They're all just RA. Here's a picture of the property, so you can see the outline. It's several properties together, as I mentioned. The school is to the right there. That's the sort of bluish green color, and the outline in red is the proposed subdivision. The tail that runs off to the left there is all power line corridor, so that's not going to be built on. Here is a picture of the aerial site, so you can see the existing subdivisions. I'll point out the streets above and to the left there that touch in, but you can see the stream running through it, the gas pipeline running through it, and the power line corridor. Here is a site plan to show you kind of how they would address actually building any of the property. So to the far right, there will be single-family detached. In the middle, it looks more like the attached duplex portion, and then up at the top, again, single-family detached up against the existing neighborhoods. There is a tail that runs out of the left-hand cul-de-sac at the top, which is called a fire lane. In part of the fire code, when you get 120 units or more, you will have to have a second entrance. That's required. Full street entrance is what the DOT normally requires. That's just a fire entrance. So they're proposing 126 units altogether. At 126, we will require 2 full street entrances. So at some point, this will have to either be fewer units or connection to an existing street, so that there are 2 entrances to the property. Here's a picture of the flood zone, so you can kind of see how wide that is. Again, very difficult to build in. They did submit a traffic study to show what the impacts would be. So the basic outline here on the right is the study area. It runs from along Mount Vernon from Lee Road up to Cedar, and it shows, I believe what we're looking at is overall 722 additional cars per day total, 40 in the morning and 60 in the evening. The issue is it's mostly age targeted. So you're not going to get the same amount of vehicles that you would get, and this study was specifically for age-targeted development. So you will not, if this was all single-family detached product where it was just families coming in, those numbers will be considerably higher. So that's why this is a little bit understated. Here are the original subdivisions. The left-hand one is to the north, and you can see the circle, so it's a little shady to see it because those are very old plats from the clerk of Superior Court's office. The one on the right is the subdivision to the west. Those streets are stubbed out, but they are not cul-de-sac. So they were originally envisioned to go through somewhere, but obviously nothing developed over the intervening years, and so they've just been left there. And here's one of the issues that that arose at the community information meeting. So while for many years the American bald eagle was an endangered species, it is not on that list anymore, but it is a protected species in Georgia. Folks have informed me that they have seen bald eagles out in the area. Obviously out at the park, we have seen bald eagles too. They're migratory to a degree, so whether they're here year-round because it's convenient hunting for them at the park, I don't know. But one of the issues that arises is you can't disturb their nest sites. They're protected under state law. So I've written a condition, if you are inclined to approve this, there is a condition in there that we will do an assessment of the property to make sure of whether or not there are any active eagle nests there, and there's some specific things you have to do if there are any found. That's one of the few items that is still part of federal law as well as state law. So we wanted to be cognizant of that. So while there's a lot of wildlife out there that we will be worrying about, this is one specifically there's laws regarding that we can help. As far as the homes themselves, these are some elevations that they've sent us to show some typical home styles, to show the 2-story and the 1-story concepts. Here's the site photos to show you what the property would look like from Mount Vernon as you come upon it. So on the left there, you're looking at the entrance to the site on the right, and then on the right-hand picture, you're looking northeast toward Mount Vernon with the power line corridor. On the left, you see a cell tower. That's actually just on the property, so that you're looking at the site itself. The power line corridor is that corridor running along their property within it and causing some difficulty to develop. Again, here, looking southwest along Mount Vernon with the school just to the east of them. That's the left-hand picture, the entrance to the school, and then looking into the property there with a cell tower. The future land use character area does provide for PUD, PRD, as well as a number of other residential types of zoning districts. So there is permission for this to be allowed in terms of the rezoning to PRD. Staff has reviewed the rezoning criteria, and all of the criteria support the request as submitted, given the senior capacity, the senior target for this particular subdivision. Staff's recommending approval of the PRD with the following findings: that the rezoning will not modify the intent or purpose or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code. B, the proposed zoning is consistent with the comprehensive future land use plan categorization of this property as is within the traditional neighborhood subdivision incorporating mixed residential types and densities, that the residential uses permissible in the proposed zoning districts are generally compatible with the surrounding zoning and the surrounding properties, and the granting of the rezoning will not adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare. I do have a few conditions. Condition 1 is that the planned residential district is intended as an integrated development governed by the development details expressed in the overall development plans and the site plan documents submitted for review and dated July 9th, 2024. I attached them to the staff report, but they're also attached here as Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, and Exhibit 3, and as well as the county code of ordinances and the articles within the UDC, as each may be amended and enforced at the time when a development approval comes through. Number 2, access to, from, and improvements upon Douglas County streets shall be under the review and approval procedures of the Douglas County Transportation Department. Number 3, as American bald eagles have been observed in the vicinity of the proposed subdivision, prior to land disturbance approval, applicants shall conduct a rapid nesting site survey of the property to determine specifically if any active or alternate eagle nesting sites would be endangered by the proposed subdivision, lot, or road design. Active eagle nest sites would need to be cataloged, and the developer will need to consult with DNR, Department of Natural Resources, staff to determine appropriate protective steps needed to comply with the state of Georgia statutory requirements. And then number 4 is our standard: applicant shall submit to the Development Review Committee for review and consideration the specific site development and access management plans to address the development standards in the overall development plan, as well as the UDC and the concerns and requirements expressed in our specific agency impact statements reviewed in the staff report dated July 9th, 2024. The DRC shall have discretion to direct staff to schedule the zoning action to be returned to the Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners to consider rezoning of the property at a regularly scheduled zoning hearing if the property fails to comply with the required conditions or other applicable codes and regulations. And then here, I've just attached the exhibits so you can see, again, they were in the staff report, but this is what will be a part of the ordinance should you choose to approve this. Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, showing the lot layouts, and Exhibit 3, this is page 1, and then this is page 15. There are 15 types of homes. They will be required to build according to this approval, should you choose to approve it. And that's my staff report. I turn it back over to you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for an allocated time of 15 minutes. Good evening, Mr. Fowler. If you would state your name and address for the record before you start your 2 minutes.
Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 49, Douglasville. Thank you all for hearing us. Let me introduce Molly Dixon, who is with the applicant. Behind her is Jeff Smith, the design engineer. And then one of the Richard family representatives is here toward the back as well. This is a senior targeted residential community, 75 single-family homes, 50 single-family attached home or villas on a total of 85.69 acres. The density is 1.5 units per acre. It's consistent with the future land use plan as well. The open space is 50.2 acres on this tract. There are 12 different floor plans. You've seen a portion of them going by. There are 3 variations on each floor plan. That's what's called the bungalow series. They're ranging between 1,449 and 2,351 square feet. Masters on the main on at least 50% of them. There are different floor plans for the villa series ranging from 1,900 square feet to 2,100 square feet. The price point for the homes is in the low to mid 400s. There'll be open space things such as playground, pavilion, walking trails throughout. It's a mandatory HOA. The rental cap is 10%. Sidewalks on both sides of all the streets, street lights on the subdivision throughout. Utilities are all underground. We had the meeting here and I consulted with neighbors in the area. I think there were a total of 11 with whom I spoke. We talked about the concern for the eagle that had been seen on site. We contacted the DNR. We thoroughly agree with condition number 3 that you have before you, as well as the other 3, so that all 4 conditions are acceptable to the applicant. The staff recommends approval. We would appreciate your support. The traffic study supplied shows that it is a reduced impact with traffic in the area because it's senior targeted. And I think that's my 2 minutes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium. Seeing, if you would state your name and address for the record before you start, please.
Good evening. My name is Jarita Brotherton, and I'm the marketing agent for the seller. And I approve what they're trying to do, the Curly Home is trying to do. As you can see, they have made great strides with leaving open areas to with concerns for the wildlife, and for that I approve. We have been trying to market this for 30 years. We came to zoning in 1998 and was denied. We came again in 2007. It is not a part of the fact that we're not getting contracts. We are, but I feel like that it's time now. Douglas County has grown to a point where we are a big county, but I think that Curly has done a great job working with the county and trying to show them that they are trying to show that they are conservative with the wildlife as well. So again, it's been a long journey with this property, but I think that the Curly Home has done an excellent job with working with both the county and trying to conserve the wildlife as well. Thank you. My address is 4457 Highway 92.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application?
Chairman, just one moment. Can we make sure that everyone speaks directly into the mic? I noticed some of the people back there in the back could not hear when speaking. So when you please come to the mic, please speak directly into the mic. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Seeing no one moving, I'll close the application in favor, the public hearing in favor, and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. You also would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. When you get here, please state your name and address for the record before you start your 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Cherry Rutledge. I'm an attorney here in Douglasville. My home address is 2548 Johnsbrook Drive, Lithia Springs, Georgia. and I can get started. I just, we, as a community, we asked the builder, can we have an opportunity to talk to them about the impact, and we, made several concerns. We did not get a direct answer to any of our concerns, including, it's like at the end of the block, there's this large grass and trees area. There's a lot of wildlife back there. There's some creeks, there's water, a lot of wildlife. And it's not many areas like that. And there's the utility lines that are on one side. And we, when some of the neighbors went and just canvassed saying, hey, there's some builders coming out here, one of the neighbors said, there's a registered bald eagle, it's registered with the federal government. And they were like, oh, okay, really, So we did bring that. In fact, some of the information, I did some research and I provided some of the information he provided. No, it's not protected, but once you have the toothpaste go out of there, you can't take this back. So you're taking it from residential agriculture. So I would like to have them involve the community, when they do can they do the survey for the eagle before they start? You've changed the zoning so you can really know the impact. Is it possible for the neighbors to do our own survey and impact in this community just to truly find out? Because we never got a concrete response as far as all of our concerns, which are in this report. And I would like for for it to be included that, you have someone in this community, because the last meeting we had, one of the neighbors said she saw the bald eagle go right down our street, go right back in that grass area. So, if you change it, are you able to then back it up and say, okay, now we have this bald eagle, where can something be built? And, what happens then? I would just like for there to be more opportunities for us to have communication and to do our own study, and we will, try to do that. I would also.
Okay, that's your 2 minutes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? If you would state your name and address for the record, and then you have 2 minutes.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Board. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kelly Talbot. I live on Lisa Court in Douglasville, and I'm going to speak really more from a broad perspective about the development here in Douglas County. I'm here to respectfully request that you reject the current residential rezoning request before you this evening. The reasons why these requests must be denied are supported by the following facts. According to Science Daily, a research study completed at the University of Kansas dated last month, June 17th of 2024, the United States does not have a housing shortage. This is contrary to popular rhetoric promoted by real estate. The data actually shows that current housing is adequate in most suburban areas of the United States for the number of people in that area. The problem is that housing affordability remains out of reach due to the state of our current economy. To further support this, the number of homes in various states of foreclosure here in Douglas County has risen from approximately 500 the last time I spoke to nearly 1,000. This means that up to 1,000 additional homes will be available, assuming that there's not a successful loans restructuring going on. The U.S. Census Bureau reports that the United States population has grown only 1.34% from 2020 to January of 2024. This is a nationwide increase of less than 2 million in approximately 4 years. Douglas County population is growing at a rate similar to that. Please don't be persuaded by the aggressive real estate market and developers who only have short-term financial motives. The data does not support the rezoning or any other residential development, in my opinion. On behalf of many citizens, I implore you to vote no to this request. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak against? Please state your name and address for the record, and then you have 2 minutes.
Hi, Sharon Bachtel, 6331 South Skyline Drive. And before I start, I have a question. When Mr. Fowler was speaking, he said senior homes, but up there it says family homes, and I would like clarification on that. But
Well, this is a place for
Okay.
you to make your statements.
Okay, I'll make my
We
statement.
don't get into a Q&A.
I'm against this subdivision and any other subdivision, basically because of what the BOC discussed on Monday at the work session. Public safety is not supported, and the school system is not supported. And if we don't have public safety and schools, then, and if we're hurting that, then it's not a good thing. So I say vote no. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? If you would state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Melody Wilcox. My address is 2280 Pine Drive. And I'm not going to ask you any questions because I know I'm not allowed, but there are a few things that I want you to remember. Most of Douglas County is against all of the building that's going on for numerous reasons. And most of the reasons have to do with the infrastructure. I don't know if y'all drive up and down these roads or not, but I live less than 2 miles from here. It takes me 15 minutes just to get to Kroger on some days because of the traffic. Our schools, our roads, our emergency services, we are not set up to continue to bring in all of this building. But the problem is nobody is listening to the citizens. And I know that because the last time we were here, there was a whole bunch of people here from Lithia Springs who basically begged you all to not allow more data centers in right in their backyard. And y'all just don't matter. It doesn't matter. And it's very frustrating because these are the people who are voting. They're the ones who are paying the taxes. And we just want to keep bringing in more and more and more and more. We're not set up for it. The citizens, and that's who you all work for. The citizens don't want it. They're done. As far as bald eagle goes, one of my many fun jobs that I had was as a bird trainer for SeaWorld. And once all the construction starts and there's all the noise and the commotion, that bald eagle's gone. And you can talk to any scientist you want. You talk to the people who know the bird community, and they will tell you when it starts and all of that goes on, they're going to be gone. Finally, I will end with this. Please, if you do pass any more, make sure you have in writing what these housing developments are promising. Experience. We had a housing development come in, townhomes right in front of us. They made all these promises, brought in fancy people to tell us it was going to be wonderful. There weren't going to be any youth there. It was going to be all adults. They were going to do all of this great stuff for the neighborhood and just keep the neighborhood safe. They have not done it. It's not been done. And the neighborhood is suffering. And that continues because nobody holds anybody accountable. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one moving, we'll close the public hearing in opposition. At this point in time, Planning and Zoning Board, do you have any questions of staff or of Mr. Fowler, the applicant?
Chairman Rob Thomas, let me start with staff. I've got a couple of questions. So what I'd like to do is just start from the basics here as far as the foundation. This request is to rezone from residential agricultural to PRD. So currently, the way it's zoned, is zoned, we can put houses on there, correct?
1 unit per acre.
1 unit per acre, okay. As opposed to 1.5 in this case.
Correct.
Per acre. So this could be developed for, another developer could come in and just put in one single family detached, 1 unit per acre.
Correct.
By right. Don't have to come here in front of the board or anybody else, and they can just start cutting down.
No public hearing.
No public hearing. cut down trees and move in that direction. Obviously, you got to consider consideration with the bald eagle, but nevertheless, they can still move forward as is.
Correct.
Okay. So, you know, I'm a big proponent of property rights. So the person that owns this, they can do what they want to do within that right.
And within the code, because there's
Within-
obviously pieces of this that have to be worked out in development review.
Correct.
So in the
Okay.
land disturbance engineering review process, there would be code requirements. So whether you get 1 unit per acre for a total of 90 units or something less, depends on how we have to arrange.
Because it's
some-
85 acres, right? Roughly
85 acres.
85 acres. So
So
technically 80-ish.
80-ish.
You could actually put there right now.
Yeah, 0.85 acre, units per acre
A little
is,
space in between some
Yeah.
roads, okay. So even say 70 units, okay? So, and I like to bring that up just so everybody understand that by right, we can get 70 houses there right now. So it's not like nothing, well, if this is not approved, it's not like nothing's gonna be there. Someone else may come back behind them and say, hey, look, I want to put 70 houses here. By right, don't have to come through us again, okay? Make sure everybody's clear on the property rights or what is at stake here. With this particular applicant, they want to change it to a PRD in this case. So we're going to get a little bit less houses than what could be done by right, correct? Because 1.5 per acre.
1.5 is a little bit more.
I mean, a little bit
than-
more, I'm sorry, a little bit
just
more,
s-
thereabout. But then you have the amenities and all that. So thereabout, maybe a few more here and there, but not much of a difference in impact. So whether it be this particular applicant or another developer coming in and saying, I want to do just put single-family homes on there, not much a difference of what can be done with this property as far as the impact of it. It still can be houses there. So make sure everybody clear on that. That's all I had for you, Mr. Schaefer. I just want to bring that up. And that's the only thing I have for right now.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, Mr. Fowler, could you come up just one moment? I think one of the major concerns that I have is, I think one of the individuals that mentioned,
Closer to the mic.
one of the individuals had mentioned that the concern about senior housing. Can you explain a little bit more detail about what your plans are regarding that?
Yes, sir. It's called Curley Family Homes because that's the name of the corporation. But the corporation builds both regular housing and then senior targeted housing, which is what this is. Seniors are looking for masters on the main primarily, so they don't have to walk up steps. 50% of all these houses will be masters on the main. What that usually brings is people my age without children with fewer trips. And that's what you see evidenced by the traffic study. So senior targeted means it's going to be largely marketed, not restricted, but largely marketed to seniors. When we had the meeting at the courthouse, I met the council, and we sent out about 30 pages of information. We didn't give the detail about what was going to happen with respect to the DNR, but we contacted them. We saw the documents that came from staff. That's a perfect explanation of what they're prepared to do concerning the preservation of the natural resources on the 50 acres of open space that will have to be left by law. So senior targeted, but in an area that's a conservation subdivision.
My next concern is cost factor. Do you have any general idea what these homes are going to run for?
They've constructed these homes in communities in the metro area, and they began in the 400s.
Is that the duplexes, Mr. Fowler?
The duplicate, I don't have the numbers on the duplexes, something probably in that area.
And, Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mr. Fowler a question, please? The duplexes or the attached villas.
Yes, ma'am.
Will they be fee simple for sale?
Yes, ma'am.
Each individual?
Yes, ma'am.
How will that be done?
There'll be covenants on the subdivision with a 10% rental cap. So when somebody buys a duplex, they'll buy it in fee simple and they can rent the section out next door.
So one person will own the
Yes, ma'am.
duplex?
It's not a condo, it's a duplex.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning Board?
Yes, Mr. Fowler. As I look over a lot of the homes that were presented, maybe I have to talk to the developer, but as I look at this, I see a lot of 2-stories. I see some 1-story, I see 2 1-stories, and the remainder are 2-stories, including your duplexes or villas, as you call them.
Yes, sir.
And looking at the sizes, based on the square foot that you talked about, and we're also talking about the price range.
Yes, sir.
And the price range of the county in which we live in. I know things are going up, but we talk about affordable housing. Just not housing. We talk about affordable housing for the people who live in these communities.
Yes, sir.
And to say 400,000, how affordable is that to the people that lives in the community? I think that's what most of the residents that's
Yes, sir.
presently here
Yes, sir.
would agree is, what does affordable housing look like?
Well, that's a great question, and when you go to the real estate record room upstairs and you look at the transfer tax form, you'll be stunned, and the realtors in the room, if there are any, will tell you that the pricing for housing is going up significantly. That what will happen in this community is the market will drive what is occurring with respect to the pricing on these houses.
But you discussed about seniors. I'm
Yes,
talking
sir.
about seniors. Now, I'm not talking about just regular people who come into the community. We're talking about seniors and affordable housing for seniors. Okay, because that's very important that we need to look at when we look at how
Yes,
we presenting to the board as well as us here. And as I look at the houses, it's a few ranches. And when I see the ranches, they're single, actually, the room's gonna be on that main floor. But your 2-stories that are presenting in the amount of square footage for that person that's gonna be senior is very small for a master on the main and asking for that type of price.
Well, they won't sell for that price for the smaller version of the homes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what would happen.
Well,
with
I
respect
just
to that.
want to just make clear when we say affordable for seniors, that we're really talking about seniors.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions, Planning and Zoning?
I have just a real quick question. You mentioned that they're going to be, I guess, targeting certain age groups. And maybe someone needs to speak to that. How does that happen?
They'll be
In
marketed.
in other words, like, kind of piggyback what he just said, who to say? Who's going to buy them, right? I mean, you say you're targeting or we're presented this way. I mean, it could be, just a facade to say that it's being targeted, yet, but that price point, or are you really targeting them? I guess it's really what the.
Excellent question. They will be marketed with masters on the main. And the people who go into the market to buy houses, and they're seniors, they're looking for masters on the main. Sometimes one-car carports, but they'll be marketed marketed to seniors, senior targeted would be the correct way to say it. And with 50% of the houses in this community with masters on the main, the statistics indicate that senior people buy them. Well, you've been in the business and you understand it.
I'm in the business, that's true. That's why I'm saying, how do you distinguish? I mean, it could be a red herring to say we're targeting them, but yet the price point might not necessarily be in their pocketbook range. That's what I'm getting at.
If
that
they're
400
not selling at that price, then the houses will reflect what they need to do to sell them at prices that will be bought.
Can someone else maybe from the actually
Curly,
builders
yes.
speak up to this question?
The
Like, is there any
representative of
other
Curly.
subdivisions that you can relate to, that you can give us some examples as to this price point being targeted to seniors, and what the ratio is?
This is Molly Dixon. She'll come forward.
Okay.
State your name and address for the record first,
I'm Molly
please.
Dixon. I'm 3957 South Main Street. We're from Ackworth.
Excuse me,
Hold
excuse
on,
me.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
She's a developer. She doesn't have to live here.
Point of order.
I don't
I can't
live here.
speak out. I'm sorry.
But we have built in Douglasville for
If-
quite a
Look
few
this way.
years.
Talk with
Address
us.
this board.
Okay. Okay. We are building, we are about to start in Dawsonville where we're doing targeted aged, and we put it in our covenants. So I don't know exactly the ratio because in our other neighborhoods, we've never done it in the past since I've been with Curly. But I know it's in our covenants that it has to be like 55 up for the seller.
55 up for the seller. What does that mean?
Like when we write the contracts, it has to be, like they have to be 55 plus.
For the buyer?
Yes.
Oh, you said seller.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, for the buyer.
Okay, 55 up for the buyers, that's in your covenants? That would be in these covenants here as well?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not just targeted, you're saying covenant as well, so that's a difference.
That's what we.
You're saying in the covenants itself, with the HOA or what have you?
Yes.
You're saying it's going to say 55 and up,
Yes.
so 54 can't purchase?
Yes.
Okay. That's all, make sure I'm clear, because that doesn't quite, it's not the same as targeted, is what I'm getting at. Covenant is different, right? That's a covenant is an agreement.
That's what
It's a
we
legal
are-
term.
That's what we're doing in a prior neighborhood. So
Okay.
I would assume that it would be set up this way.
Well, that's what I'm asking. That's what we're trying to find out.
If you're gonna say it's going to be in the covenants, there'll be covenants, I mentioned that, but if it's gonna be
course.
55 and up for 50%, then that'll be.
I
the
don't see
stipulation.
Curly Family Homes opposing to that. So if that's what it is to get us passed, then I'm sure they would agree to that.
So a condition could be placed that 55 and up in the covenants, not just targeted. You're saying you agree to that? Is that something, Mrs. Schaefer, that could be rectified?
So if the board chooses to make an extra condition of approval that 50% of the homes in the entire development are age restricted to 55 and above by way of covenant, that's certainly a condition of approval. That's basically what she's saying, is that given that 50% or more of the homes could be master on main, which would allow it to be targeted to seniors, then you can certainly add a condition in there, and then that would require it to be 50% of the homes, whatever style that they build, that would have to be age restricted. Because if it's in the covenants, you're correct, that's a restriction, and people willingly will pay and sign that contract, and that's what will be in terms of, now, how that gets enforced is a little more complicated because we're not involved in the transactions, obviously. So they would have to keep track of that themselves, and once 50% of the homes were actually sold to the 55 and over population, then they would be free to sell the rest to whomever would be a buyer. Now, that may still be seniors, and it may not. But again, that's a 50% rule that it's a little hard to keep track of for staff, just to be perfectly honest about it.
Okay, thank you. But a condition could be written into the,
Absolutely, you all are, it's your privilege, you get to decide how this goes forward, if it goes forward. So if you want that condition, you certainly can add it in.
okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So that'll be something you'll be open to? Your Curly Family Homes would be open to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's similar. So where you say you're doing another one in Dawson? Where else have you already established this? And how many
We're
homes?
currently building right now at Reserves at Chapel Hill over, I guess it's 10, 15 minutes away from here.
The preserves? Okay,
Mhm.
I'm familiar. And how many you have there?
There was 2 phases. So the second phase that we're currently building in, I think it's 43 lots roughly.
Mm. And that's also age restricted?
No, sir.
That is not age restricted?
No.
Okay, that's just, all right. So any other age restricted close by, Cobb?
No,
Alden?
like I said, we haven't done age restricted since I've been here. We just went under contract with one in Dawsonville. They're
Okay.
townhomes and it's age restricted and we put it in our covenants.
Okay, so this is a new model for you?
Yes.
Okay,
This
all
is
right.
building the townhomes age restricted would be our first time.
Okay, fair enough. I just want to see if you had any examples.
No, sir,
and
I'm
some
sorry.
Ratios. Okay. Well, I don't have any other questions,
Okay.
Chairman. Thank you.
Any other questions, planning and zoning? Hearing none. Mr. Chairman, I'll throw
Yes,
it over to
sir.
the Board of Commissioners for any questions y'all may have.
Thank you, sir. Just for the record, we, since I've been here, which is 14 months, with the exception of Fairburn Road and Riverside Drive, we've not approved any apartments or any townhomes in this county. For 14 months, there hasn't been any. My question to everybody that owns property or that's a builder or that has a right to do what they want to with their land is, if I can't build townhomes and I can't build apartments and I can't build senior centers, what can I build? And we have a responsibility. Those people have rights too, and you people have rights, and we've, for 14 months, we've protected those rights as absolutely best as we can. But there's a limit to what we can say no to, I believe. And Mr. Fowler, I'm not for a predominantly senior housing complex. If you can rent out houses, I'm not for that. And if it's not a total senior complex, I'm not for that. But we have to allow these people that own this land, that pay tax on it every year, a lot of tax, and we have to allow them to do what's already within the law. So, I've listened to all of you, and I care about. I don't want townhomes in my area where I live. I don't want apartments in my area where I live, but I don't know that I would be against a full-fledged senior complex. I just don't know yet. But what I'd like to do is hear from the commissioner of that district.
I'd like to go first, Chairman, if you don't mind.
Huh?
I'd like to go first for some
Okay.
questions,
All
please.
right.
All right, just stay up there, Joe, and the applicant. All right, so some questions I have are, what are the lot sizes going to be? The width and depth of the majority of the lot sizes?
This is the engineer,
Okay.
Mr. Commissioner, who designed it.
Hello, my name is Jeff Smith. I'm with Ridge Planning and Engineering, 6234 Old Highway 5 in Woodstock. And the lot sizes are going to vary depending on whether they're the villas or the detached, but looks like we've got the minimum lot sizes for the detached are 5,000 square feet, and the minimum for the villas is 4,000 square feet.
Okay. The duplexes that are in the front, correct, and senior homes are in the rear. Am I correct on understanding that layout?
Well, so the very front of the neighborhood is the detached. It's kind of the middle section. There's a middle section that we put the villas, and then in the rear is detached.
It's also detached.
Correct.
Where's the senior, the ones that you're going to sell for the seniors? Which one is it going to be spread throughout, or is it going to be a certain section?
It's actually all of them could be for the seniors, and so I know we've been talking about some conditions and everything, but as far as what was initially presented as far as targeted, they would be throughout the community. They offer an age-targeted product that would be done throughout the community.
Okay. The duplexes, I'm assuming there's no garages on the duplexes.
There are. They're two-car garages.
Two-car garages?
Yes, sir.
How long is the driveway?
Minimum of 20 feet, so you could fit 2 cars parked in the driveway without blocking a sidewalk.
Okay. All right, the other question I have is, if it's going to be senior, here's a big thing that gets kind of confusing. If you say senior targeted and they're not selling, you're going to sell, the developer's not going to go under. The developer's going to sell it to whoever can buy. Let's just be honest. If it was really for seniors, it would say age restricted, not targeted. So target is to market to somebody hoping they'll buy, but restricted means that's only people who can buy. So that's a huge concern. And the only other question I got is, if it's going to be an intermingled mix of a senior community and duplex area, if I'm a senior and I'm going to go buy in a senior living area, I want to live around seniors, a dedicated area just for seniors. So I just have some concerns about that, and also just looking at this and just knowing how some of that other developments we have in our county, to where we have duplexes and townhomes. If the seniors are going to be in the back, one thing that really concerns me is a lot of people, sometimes you get families in there with multiple cars and they use the garage for storage, and now you got people blocking the roadway. We've got to make sure that our fire and EMS and sheriff's office can get to those seniors and not to have to worry about people blocking the roadways. So that's just two big concerns of mine. But I was just kind of confused about the whole concept of this, of calling it for senior living and also duplexes, but yet we're going to intermingle the seniors living to maybe somebody who's a young partying crowd right next door. Just doesn't really, I don't know. I just, that's just some questions. And I understand and I appreciate some of our board's comments in regards to the development of the lot sizes, but two, we got to look about our infrastructure. The more that we keep packing in, we allow to pack in, it might be 125 or 126 units, but if we go back and we develop this as 1 acre lots, that might only be, like you said, 70 units. Well, that's another 50 or 56 cars off the road. That's going to keep our traffic from being blocked. So, and it's going to be that's going to overcrowd a school room. So I just, that's just my 2 cents. I'm going to turn it over to the commissioner of that district, but I just wanted to ask those questions. I greatly appreciate your answer. I yield back, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Alcaraz. My questions first are for staff, if I could. If we could pull up the slide with the fire lane.
Did I have it? One more? Where did I go? That.
And so you are saying that in this slide that there's going to have to be an entrance
Yeah, far left.
how close is that to the existing neighborhood that is there?
It's the depth of a lot. So that street itself comes through the existing subdivision and would connect to the cul-de-sac. So it's the depth of the
So
cul-de-sac.
the concern that the community had in that area that there may be potential through traffic into their neighborhood is
Well,
founded
if
because
it's
they
a
will be,
yeah.
that's their access point.
Correct. So the issue for us is this is a fire lane, so it's not directly accessible to the neighbors to the north. If the DOT request goes forward, if you were to approve this, when it comes to us in DRC, that will not be a fire lane. If it stays 126 units, that will be a street. Now, I don't know whether it will be connected there or to the next one over, but the DOT will have to have a street because that's what they've said already. At 120 plus units, you must have 2 entrances. That's the fire code.
So to make sure that we are clear, there is no guarantee that we can provide the existing neighborhood that there will not be an additional through street with traffic into their community.
That's correct. If this moves forward at 126 units, our DOT and our fire marshal will absolutely require a second entrance.
Can we go to the slide with the flood zone?
Yep.
How many, I guess, what is the encroachment level or potential for flood in that area for the houses that will border this flood zone?
So if you look at this map and just kind of get a gaze in your eye as to what this represents, and you look here, you see the dashed lines. Those are the flood map lines that show you there cannot be homes in any of that flood zone. So they are backing away from the flood zone. And of course, the WSA and our code have setback requirements from stream edges again. So we have a requirement for that.
So would that result in any potential for the homeowners that are in those surrounding areas to have higher insurance premiums?
It shouldn't, because none of those would be allowed to build in that flood zone itself.
Gotcha. I think that's all the questions that I have for staff. I do have questions, though, for the developer. Thank you. You did mention during your presentation that these are going to be duplexes with one owner.
Did I understand that correctly, or was that just a misstatement?
No, that is correct. Each unit would be sold to one owner, so a duplex with two would have two separate owners.
Okay, so not one individual owning the whole duplex.
That's correct.
And so you mentioned that you would have a covenant or restriction, you could potentially have a covenant or restriction that would keep you from selling 50% to people over 55, but what would you be doing for the individuals who bought and are over 55 but are now renting out their property to younger individuals?
There's a restriction, a 10% restriction of the rental, so only 10% of the homes could do that. It would be in the covenant that anybody living in the home would also have to be 55 or over. But to your point, I don't know how they would police that with the HOA, but it would be in the covenants. It'd be up to them to make sure that any renters were of the age.
And so since this is only senior targeted, not senior restricted, it's kind of a misnomer that we're going to have lower or reduced traffic because we don't actually know who is going to purchase these properties, who will be coming to visit, who will be coming to provide care for their elderly relatives, what kind of services that they may have, if they have in-home health aides, in other individuals that are coming there. So while they may not be driving themselves, it's possible that they really would still be having some sort of traffic impact on this community.
If there was a restriction that was added that at least 50% in here would be 55 or older, it would hold true with the traffic study that there would be some reduction. I do want to mention just in generality, so as an engineer, we work with a lot of different clients. We do a lot with age-restricted and age-targeted communities, and while you are 100% right, age-targeted just means they're kind of marketing towards the 55-plus community. Anybody could buy, but typically what they do see in those communities is people 55-plus are buying, and I know there was a comment about younger families moving in. Of course they could, but they know if this is targeted towards seniors, they would only live into a community that's like that. But traffic-wise, they drive at different peaks, so I think the traffic would hold true with that.
When you did your study on the desirability for masters on the main, were seniors the only target group or population that you looked at? Because I'm 38 years old, but would love to have a master on the main. I don't know that would be exclusive to just senior citizens.
Yeah, I wasn't the builder. I didn't do the study on it, but typically that's what you see. But 100%, right? There's several people who'd like to have a primary bedroom on the main floor. That is right.
And then you also mentioned, can we, staff, can we have this slide up for the examples of what the duplexes will look like? This looks like all kind of plain, just siding. Did you all speak to any of the residents in the area about the design, or if this was in line with where Douglas County is moving in terms of what they want to see in development? Because this is very cookie cutter, and it's my impression from the constituents I speak to that this is the exact design they want to move away from.
This is actually the slide of the single family. It's the one, the picture.
Yeah, I'll get it.
It really doesn't matter. That visual is not what people are looking for.
This exhibit shows the first page is the detached product. The last page is the villas. So this is what the villas, but you're correct. It's similar design.
Did the residents give you any feedback in terms of what the overall aesthetic of this product was going to look at, or was going to be?
No, ma'am.
Did you all ask?
No, ma'am. Actually, the single family was a new product that Curly designed to try to get prices down. I think the price point when Joe mentioned that we're in the 400s, I understand it sounds steep, but prices have gone up for the builders too, like our products, our materials, everything. So we actually were trying to get the product down. If that's something that we need to ask the community, we can do that to get their feedback on if we need to make any changes to the exteriors. But with our other community, they've been very favorable.
I will just, that's my last question. Will close with a comment.
I feel like some of the answers or responses are directly related to what the community means when they say they feel like we often get the bait and switch, because there is a lot of, well, we could do this or we might be able to do that, but there are not really concrete answers, definitions, or what you actually intend to do. This seems like a very haphazardly thrown together presentation of the residents can just take whatever is going to be presented or given to them. I know for myself, I don't appreciate that. And so I would just highly recommend that you take resident feedback seriously when you are proposing a new development in this area. I yield my time, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I do have just a couple questions, if it's okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is for staff. So the first question I want to get some insights into is the impact. Did we talk about fire, rescue, police, EMS? Can you talk to us a little bit about the impact study and what has been their comments back to this particular application?
So the impact statements that come back from agencies are embedded in the DRC review process fully. The comments that came back from the sheriff are pretty standard. We're understaffed. We are short on each of our shifts by a number of units and a number of manpower units, so we need help. Fire marshals, the same sort of a comment. We are understaffed. We need to hire more folks, and we need another truck here or there. There's no specific comments for this one in terms of the fire marshal saying, oh, by the way, we need a new station or another truck, but it's the same comments as to our response time. So given what we would be building here, response time would be a few minutes for one type of truck, a few more minutes for an EMS type truck. If there was a taller structure here and you needed a ladder truck coming out of downtown, it would be even more minutes. So what we get from our agency impact statements is that kind of a review. Minutes to respond, and the sheriff's times, as I've been here at the county, used to be a 10-minute response, then it went to 15, now it's gone to 20 minutes to respond just to normal requests for assistance of some kind. So you can see the progression as we've developed over the last just 6 years, from 10 minutes to response time for the sheriff's department to 20 minutes to respond for the sheriff's department. Obviously, there are areas in the county that are a little denser in their development, so you have a fire station here and a fire station here trying to serve into the middle where it's denser. Again, that would have to be a board's decision to say, let's look at logistically what we would need to spend going forward to solve the donuts in the hole, where time frame of getting to is tough. As far as DOT is concerned, they're going to mostly get on this type of a project for internal roads and the connection to Mount Vernon. And eventually, if this were to be approved, the connection to one of the other subdivisions. I would say this subdivision, if you were approving it, curb, gutter, sidewalk would be standard requirement. The connection to Mount Vernon would have deceleration lanes coming inbound from the north. It would have a left turn lane coming northbound on Mount Vernon, so you would have some adjustments to Mount Vernon. The folks who live in the existing subdivision with their kids going to this elementary school would have a much easier time sending them to school on a bike, because they would have brand new sidewalks, et cetera. It would not be the same for the reverse. There are no sidewalks in some of those older subdivisions, and getting from the new part to the high school on Lee would be a tremendous burden. So again, that kind of issue. Now, as far as us predicting impact to schools, while I hear this every meeting and we appreciate the comment of how this is affecting schools, the Board of Commissioners does not get involved in funding schools. The state statutes forbid us from actually involving ourselves in trying to plan ahead for schools. So we can't do impact fees for schools in the state of Georgia as a county. We can do impact fees for other things, which we're working on to present to you, but for schools we can't. So as I appreciate the gasp in an audience when I say we can't plan ahead for schools as planners because we don't have the tools, because state statute forbids us from putting those tools in place. So it's hard for us. So when Kirk sends over our impact statement for schools, he shows us, well, you're gonna, if you've got 120 homes, you will need this many students. Here's the elementary school, another 30 students here, another 12 students here, and another 50 students there. We see that, but how do we fix that? So I apologize for sounding helpless, but I don't have a method for anticipating what we can do with schools because their funding is backwards. They need boots in seats, rather. I won't say the other. You need folks to be on the assessment roll in September to get your funding from the state. And we can't give them this ahead of time and say, oh, by the way, we know we're going to need another 60 students in these schools.
Sure. All right. Well, I guess what's concerning to me is just even hearing the response time. And given the demographics and the population that's being proposed, to me, that's very alarming. So I'm hoping that that same types of bells and whistles are also going off with what we're hearing here with our developer. So another question is the infrastructure. What type of roads, what type of traffic signals, et cetera, would also need to be brought in to support this new development?
So again, at the intersection of Mount Vernon, I don't know that the warrant is sufficient to add a traffic light, but improvements at Mount Vernon would be required. Deceleration lane, left turn lane in, stop sign on the way out. This does not, to me, in the staff, in the report for the traffic study, it did not rise to the level where warrants for a traffic light are needed. And again, as we point out, if they were to drop the number of units back to 80 units by right or 119 units that does not need a second entrance, then that's a whole different type of review process, and it changes the picture quite considerably as to their impacts.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So to the development team, I guess one of the questions that I have is, how many times did you talk to the residents? Did you go out and talk to the community? What was that feedback? Because we're hearing an overwhelming
We had the meeting here,
non-approval.
Mr. Commissioner, we had the meeting here. There were 11 people from the community who came. I took down email addresses and I sent the package that I sent to the staff to them. And it basically outlined what you've seen. What Commissioner Jones described as cookie cutter photographs are brand new drawings that were for this particular development. And what Commissioner Alcaraz said about the division between the seniors and those that will not be restricted. We can provide you, if you would table it, we could provide you photographs of what we have built rather than just these drawings. And then if you give us the 30 days, we can shift the senior component so that it's segregated from the others, that is, other than under 55. And we can slightly lower the density, Commissioner Jones, so that that exit through the Chestnut Log subdivision would not be required. But we can't do that unless we table it. We've heard what you've said, we've heard what they've said. A number of the people here are about another application that's on your agenda coming up on Bright Star Road. But they are suggesting the same types of things that we think we can address with respect to what the houses are going to look like. Commissioner Alcaraz is concerned with respect to collecting the seniors together and avoiding the cut through the Chestnut Log.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield the floor back to you.
Okay, we yield back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Fowler, I was going to ask you at this juncture, we've heard a lot of discussion back and forth between everybody. If this were to go forward with a denial, then that would be 6 months before you could come back. A table would give you time, give you 30 days to August the 6th to work out, communicate, and come back with a better, different presentation.
I believe we need to, based on what we've heard from all of you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the discussion. Do I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, it's Rob Thomas. I'd like to put a motion to table Z 2024-14 until the next Planning and Zoning meeting of August 6, 2024.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, Planning and Zoning Board? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of tabling tabling Z 2024-14 until August the 6th, 24 at 6 p.m., please signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Z 2024-14 comes to you with a recommendation for tabling until August 6, 2024 at 6 p.m.
Board of Commissioners, Z 2024-14, the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission is to table until August the 6th, is that correct?
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
I move to deny the request for rezoning Z2024-14.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to deny and a second. Any comments? All in favor of denying Z 2024-14, please raise your hand. All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion, Mr. Chairman, motion has been denied by the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Okay, our next agenda item, Ms. Duncan.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have before you application M 2024-05 and Z 2024-23. This is a request for rezoning and a future land use map amendment. This is the future land use map amendment is a request to go from suburban living to urban residential. And then this is also a request to go from residential low density to residential high density for a townhome community located at 2892 Beaumar Road. We also have a second rezoning request from residential low density to residential high density for townhome community. This is for property located at 2916 Pope Road and 2883 Beaumar Road. I distinguished between the two of those because there is one portion of the project that is compatible with the county's future land use map, and there's a portion of the project that is not compatible with the county's future land use map. So just want to clarify that we're going to kind of be taking a couple of votes on this one as you move forward. This is in Commission District number 2. So on all of these tracts, they are currently used for single-family dwellings. Beaumar Road is a major thoroughfare throughout the county, and the Beaumar Road connector is something that we're going to talk a bit about with this application. The Beaumar Road connector has not been fully formed. Currently, we are working to get a design under contract with an engineer to figure out where the exact alignment of that proposed connector would be. Director Rana is with us this evening if you have any specific questions about that road or the timing. But a lot of this further discussion is going to hinge on kind of the future of that roadway coming through. There is sewer in proximity to the subject property, so there is some infrastructure in place, but not all of the infrastructure that would be needed to support the request. So the applicant is requesting for a new major subdivision. Again, this is going to be contingent upon a successful rezoning along Beaumar Road. And so he split his proposal into tracks A and B. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more when I show you the pictures. I'm going to go ahead and put in front of you the relevant code sections because, again, this is a request for townhomes. So 199 townhomes are under consideration as a part of this. And I want to share with you kind of up front, I won't read it line by line, but we have a lot of regulations already in our code around townhomes. So when we get kind of to the end of this presentation, I'm going to refer back to some of what you're seeing here. So I just kind of want to make a note of it here. But we'll go on and kind of discuss sort of the existing conditions. A long time ago, there was a zoning case in 1992 for a temporary land use permit for a children's home. That is no longer valid on the property. And our primary concern with this application, and we have shared this with the applicant, is that we think that the potential future roadway is still very much up in the air about where that alignment is going to go. So you guys have heard me say previously that any kind of exchange of zoning or using it in a transactional way is something that staff is not comfortable with, and we do not recommend that we get in the habit of doing that. In this application, one of the central concerns is whether or not we would be willing to grant a higher density zoning in exchange for part of that road right-of-way being given up in advance. And so again, as we go through and we show you the development concept, I think you'll start to understand why we think that this application is a little bit premature given what we currently know about where the road is going. Again, our Department of Transportation is here tonight. You can ask them any specific questions that that may come up about the alignment of the future connector road, but we understand that even though we're currently in negotiations to get a design firm under contract to design that alignment, it's probably going to be 2026 before we sort of have that proposed alignment finalized. So again, you're going to hear me say several times tonight that we think overall this application is very premature to be considered at this time. We have reviewed the criteria for zoning in our code, and we do find that there is a mix of compatibility, but also with areas that we don't find to be compatible. And again, the same goes for the future land use criteria. So let's get into a little bit of the pictures here to give you kind of a more visual sense of what we're talking about. So what you see in front of you is the zoning map for that area. We don't have the specific parcels delineated just yet, because one of the things that I want to share with you is this is solidly an area of residential low density zoning, right? So the subject tracts and a lot of the land around it are already zoned residential low density. When we move forward to look at the aerial image of the property, here are the 3 tracts that you can see that are subject to the zoning. So the tracts on the west side of Beaumar Road, those are the tracts that are substantially compatible with the request for the future land use, with the existing future land use. So that area is urban residential. The tract on the east is the one where we think it is not compatible with the future land use map. The future land use says that that's appropriate for suburban living, so that's very much more a single family residential zoning classification there. As I move forward to the concept plan, what you can see, the tract A, where they're proposing a number of townhomes on the western side of the road, and tract B, you can also see a townhome development, but if you notice kind of where that B is on the property, that's the area that they're proposing to not develop in anticipation of the future alignment of the Beaumar connector. And as I said, right now, we don't know what that alignment is going to look like, so we think it is premature to grant any kind of zoning change for anything when that is still very much up in the air. So here's the overall concept plan that was submitted. Again, 199 townhomes is what is proposed in this area. And then here are some example facades of what the townhomes are proposed to look like. So again, the area on the western side has urban residential as its future land use classification, and that piece of it we do see is compatible, but on the eastern side of the road, that's where the future land use is still identified as suburban living. So if you were inclined to change the map to bring it into compatibility with the future land use, this is the tract that we would be asking you to give consideration to. But again, I'm going to jump back here to look at the entire site, because staff's recommendation for this entire site is based on not taking it as a tract A and a tract B. We have consistently treated this as one entire project. So when we look at that, based on the issues that we have identified with the future land use map, it is going to be our recommendation that you should deny the future land use map and the rezoning based on the findings that the proposed use will actually modify the comprehensive plan and the intent, purpose, and spirit of the Unified Development Code. We also find that the proposed rezoning is not compatible with the suburban living future land use designation, and that the proposed use along the western side of Beaumar Road does match urban living and traditional neighborhood designations. However, townhomes in this area are generally not connected logically to any of the transitional nodes that would be anticipated with that classification. And then finally, we feel that the granting of the rezoning on the western portion, that will not adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare, but granting the rezoning on the eastern portion will adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare by proposing construction with awareness of the eventual Beaumar Road connector expansion, but without knowledge of where that expansion is going to actually go. So again, it is our recommendation that you deny the entire request for future land use map and rezoning. That being said, I think the applicant will come up here again and ask for the consideration to potentially be tabled. The staff has no objection, if it is the will of the board, to table this and to continue to work with the applicant for 30 days, but our recommendation overall is to deny. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan. At this point in time, I will open the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. Anyone wishing to speak in favor?
Okay, really,
State your name and address for the record first, please.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Usually the applicant goes first.
What did you say? Who did you open it open to?
The public hearing, usually the applicant has their 2 minutes.
Has
Then
their
any-
opportunity, well, I beg your pardon, but with me standing here, I really wanted to respond to Chairman Miller's, I thought was an invitation for everybody.
No,
but
sir.
I thought at that time it would have been a little bit.
This is a public hearing on this
So I'll wait,
particular
I'll wait,
application.
I'll wait for you. That's fine. That's fine.
If you're in favor, I'd love for you to go ahead.
Right. If you would state your name and address, and then you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for hosting this evening. My name is Matt Coutu. My professional address is 227 Sandy Springs Place, Sandy Springs, Georgia. And I've been working long and hard on what you see before you. What started with this development is the fact that you've got the future land use map that shows urban residential on Section A. Section B is under suburban living on the future land use map. Now, this parcel that we've discussed here, the Section B, is the location of the future Lee Road extension. And so what has gone into the thinking on the site plan was that allocate significant space for the future road extension. There's actually an adjacent parcel that's already designated for the future road. They've parceled it out, and looking at that width and then looking at the engineers on my side's review of the future road, that we felt that we're allocating significant space and putting it in the location of the future road. One thing that I wanted to speak on tonight is the fact that although that Section A is future land use of urban dwelling or urban neighborhood, I'm actually proposing less than 5 units per acre across the parcel. The assemblage of B made sense so that I could have a cohesive community and have the amount of units necessary. For having amenities such as a pool and a cabana for the community. Some things, one thing I'd like to applaud the staff on is setting up town hall meetings. That's not common in most counties, and it really allows the community to come out and meet the developer. I thought we had a pretty good town hall. I will say there was some opposition, if you would imagine, and some of it was around traffic. So fortunately on this project, we have done a traffic study with a very reputable traffic engineer that works for the states, counties within the state of Georgia. And the engineer's traffic study came back as no negative impact on the roads. So anyhow, I apologize there.
That's your 2 minutes.
Oh, that was my 2 minutes?
That was your 2 minutes.
Even after I said my address?
Yes.
Okay, well, I had some commitments I had made to the community. I'd be glad to share them, or I can share them in my next rebuttal.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please approach the podium. You'd have 2 minutes per person. If you would state your name and address for the record, then you have 2 minutes.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. My name is Sherry Yurta. I live at 2883 Beaumar Road. Obviously, Tommy Brown and I have a vested interest in this. I'm going to get that elephant out of the room immediately. A little bit of history here. Tommy built his home on Beaumar Road in 1962, and he has lived there for 62 years. He served this county for 30 years as a firefighter. I'm also retired from the fire department, and I had 23 years. In 1962, when Tommy built his home, there were 5 homes, including his, on what was then a dirt road. In the early 1970s, the county's future land use plan changed, that R2 zoning was more appropriate for the area, 2 homes per acre. There were no public hearings. It just changed. As a result of that, between Mount Carmel School and Pope Road, I'm not talking about any other part of Beaumar Road, 7 subdivisions, which many of the people who opposed this application now reside in, were constructed as a result of that rezoning. Over the years, offers have been made to Tommy And all of those offers, he has said to those people, do you see a for sale sign? We chose to work with Matt because of his commitment to this plan. And I would like to state that we are on track to 8, since that has been brought up as to what is and is not compatible. So we are on the side that is compatible with the future land use plan. We respectfully ask for your consideration of our property rights, which I appreciate your comments earlier on that, Chairman Miller. I thank you for your time, and I may be at my 2 minutes, but congratulations, buddy. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application, please approach the podium.
I'm Jeremiah Paranack, and I live at 3040 Beaumar Road. And I wanted to just share generally, not so much specifically. I will say specifically, we reviewed some of this information, and we feel like what you have here, somewhat similar to the previous one, but certainly more so in this one, a high-quality development proposal. The amount of effort, time, and money invested in the due diligence, which means integrity, speaks a lot. I'd really like to speak to so many people in the room who have concerns about folks that don't live in the county. You might be surprised who all does not live in the county. You got to understand, just as she mentioned, the county's growing. I had the opportunity to speak with a man who grew up in a home at 3009 Pope from 11 years old to the age of 28. He moved there in 71. He still lives here. A lot of people have moved in here. You can oppose and reject, and Cobb County will take the high-quality residents all day long. You don't want nobody moving in your community. Don't have them come in your community. That's fine. Your housing costs, prices, all that stuff. What you want is diversity. You want wealthy people living with impoverished people. You want people with resource to live next door to people who have less. You want diversity. And if we keep saying, no, that's expensive housing. No, we don't want that rich man developing nothing. And what you're really saying is us poor folks going to huddle up over here. We're going to let Fulton and Cobb County have all the resource. Now, I don't know if you've driven on the roads much, but their roads and their resources are very fine resources. These new homes, these new developments that we're so adamant about opposing, that's revenues. That's more people sitting in here caring about our community. It's a growing community. Let's not neglect the fact that we live in one of the fastest growing places in the world. So this is not specifically about this, other than to say that this is a high quality, this is not a fly-by-night proposal. This is a quality development. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I hate to cut people off, but 2 minutes is 2 minutes, and that's our policy. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Seeing no one move, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application, please approach the podium. You too would have 2 minutes per person for a total allocated time of 15 minutes. If you would state your name and address for the record, and then you have 2 minutes, sir.
My name is Alan Thames, 3083 Carmel Drive, Douglasville, Georgia, 30135. We have lived out here 40 years. My wife is a retiree as a school teacher at the Douglas County Schools. We raised our children here. They went to Mount Carmel Elementary School. They graduated from the Douglas County school system. We drive by Mount Carmel School and we weep. We see red dust blowing across the area there at what's going on over there behind the school. We do not want that on our end near Carmel Drive. We do not want that in the near the Carmel Chase subdivision. We do not need that along Beaumar Road. We don't need the Beaumar Road extension, which seems to be just taken for fact that it's going to happen. We don't believe, my wife and I don't believe it should happen. Somehow, some way it should stop. We don't need that kind of development. We need to keep it up to that end of Highway 92. I want to welcome the new commissioners to the board. Thank you for your service. And the one that's retiring, good luck.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? You'd state your name and address for the record, and then you have 2 minutes, sir.
Yes, Wayne Bennett, 3123 Freedom Court, Douglasville, 30135. First of all, I want to state I am not anti-growth, but Douglas County is experiencing rampant growth, and especially District 2 seems to have, for some reason, been targeted there. That's just like last month, I went to the Model Mile and the Livable Centers Initiative meeting at Lionsgate. When I turned right to exit Lionsgate going home, went about a half a mile, turned right onto Lake Monroe, the northbound traffic on Fairburn Road, I could not even see the end of it, and this was at like 4:45 in the afternoon. So we weren't even at prime rush hour at that time. The roads in this county are not good, and they're getting worse all the time. Usually this time of the year is a major time for repaving. I personally have not seen any repaving going on in my area of the county, anywhere I travel. A prime example of that is Buckingham Trace, the rental home subdivision that was built on Simon Road. Simon Road is in bad shape. And, you know, that's what the taxpayers of Douglas County have been left to deal with. See, when we do these things, part of the infrastructure is the roads. And the developers of these projects need to be responsible for at least a sizable portion of that. I think Douglas County needs to absorb, we probably need 3 to 5 years to absorb what has recently been completed and what is currently underway, much less approving new development. That's crazy. It's crazy. Douglas County is becoming less livable all the time, especially in my district. I can't speak for the other districts, but District 2 has been ravaged.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? If you would state your name and address for the record, sir.
Ed Shealy, 2754 Pope Road, and I've been a resident of Douglas County all my life when there was no roads. There's dirt roads and wasn't no I-20. But the man that's trying to sell this property has been my neighbor for 40 years, who's a great fella, and I'd like to see him sell it, but I don't want to see this. I'd like to see the 1-acre houses. We property, joins him, but, I have 5 grandchildren who's in Douglas County school system. Now, every one of their classes is already overcrowded. I don't care what you say about it, that ain't gonna help nothing. But like I said, I'd like to see anybody that's a taxpayer sell their property and make a killing. But this ain't the right idea to put townhomes in a residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? If you would, state your name and address.
Yeah, my name's Ryan Graham. I live at 3118 Freedom Court, Douglasville, Georgia. I also represent Jim and Colleen. They live at 3111 Freedom Court. They couldn't make it here tonight. I can't remember their last name, sorry. Yeah, Slavic. Thank you. I bought my house back in about 2000. And when I bought my house, I drove around looking. I literally looked at hundreds of houses. And I looked for an area that got me away from the apartment environment I was in, because I did not like that. I liked the fact that my area has 1-acre lots. And I'm not against, like Wayne, I'm not against building. I'm not against telling people they can't do stuff. But I'm against changing the code that runs up to my street. Now, they don't join my street, but it sure runs right up to it. And it's going to impact me with noise. It's going to impact me. And it's going to affect my environment. And I don't like it. And I'm going to be in this house another probably 20 years, and I'm going to have to deal with that, whereas you guys won't. So I'd also like to encourage you to drive down Pope Road and look at the neighborhoods through there and see that Pope Road is nothing more than a neighborhood road that accesses a bunch of neighborhoods. This amount of houses is going to affect that. I don't care what some study says, it's going to affect it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? If you would state your name and address for the record, 2 minutes.
My name is Keith Abbas. I live at 2801 Pope Road, Douglasville, Georgia. I would like to comment here to Mr. Miller, Chairman Miller, former sheriff. We do have property rights. I own that house. I paid it outright. We all have property rights. However, those exist within the confines of the community. I can't put a toxic dump or a concert hall on my property, and I don't think you can either. It has to be with what the community accepts, wants, and needs. And as far as traffic not being impacted, 199 houses, 2.4 cars in Georgia. That's 477 more cars. That's a lot of traffic for that small area. You have a creek there on Beaumont Road. Runoff's going to increase in there. It already floods. I've seen it because I live there. So that means flooding will increase. And people on this board brought up about the houses in the last development. These townhouses, they don't look good. I don't consider that quality, and I don't know anybody that would. You know, they look like cheap townhouses that Mr. Potter would put up in Bedford Falls to lure in a lot of suckers. And then there's wildlife. There's so much wildlife in that area. When you take out all those trees, it has nowhere to go but go into people's yards and get hit by cars. There's all the construction. It causes damage to the cars. Somebody just brought that up about the school at the end of Beaumont Road. I already got a flat tire going down there. Don't need any more. You work for us, and you can tell by the applause, we don't want this development. So you need to remember that. Thank you.
You'd state your name and address, and we have 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm Michelle Chapman. I live at 3710 Cindy Drive, Douglasville, Georgia. Cindy Drive runs into Pope Road, so I'm on the corner of Cindy and Pope, and my driveway is on Pope Road. It currently takes me about 15 minutes to get out of my own driveway during rush hour, like now. So, I mean, even one more car is going to impact that, you know, and what can you do about that? Widen the road, take up some of my property? I mean, it seems to me that in Douglas County, we're just getting increased taxes and decreased quality of life. You know, I've been in my home for 25 years, and so, you know, I've been in Douglas County long enough to remember the housing market crash. And during that time, I used to go to Chamber of Commerce meetings where we had an economist come and talk to us about the state of things. And I was always surprised at how Douglas County was actually one of the worst impacted during the housing market crash. I was like, why is that? And it's because our building was outrageous, out of control, and it seems like we're doing that again. I don't know. I'm just saying it's worth mentioning. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mike Hall, 3290 Pilgrim Court. I want 2 minutes later. How y'all doing? Appreciate y'all service. I know it's rough up there. I know it's rough. But I appreciate y'all. Look, this is what I'm saying. If they gonna do anything, if you're gonna vote on anything, keep it the same. We appreciate y'all. Just keep it the same. Ms. Jones, appreciate you. I know you knew. Commissioner Jones. I think I'm gonna vote for you next time. I'm gonna tell Kevin. But anyway, if we can just get, I've been here 30 years. I don't serve. I work for the school system, coaching the kids from Chapel Hill and Lithia Springs. We don't raise money for the kids out here. We still want those single homes, the 1 acre in our district, which is, you know, Pilgrim's Landing. So we can get that, we'll be cool. Just don't let them build the townhomes. That's all we asking y'all. We know it's rough out there, appreciate it. 2 minutes up.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? How much time do we have left? About 6 minutes, okay. 6 minutes, you got 2 minutes. 2 of that 6.
All right. Doug Braun, 2931 Beaumont Road there. Of course, I oppose this here. I love for Tommy to sell his land. I bought my house over there in '87. My house was built in '64. I sunk my whole life savings into it. blood, sweat, and tears, and been there since '87. I oppose the townhomes going in. I mean, it's going to be right there in my back corner of my yard there. Hell, when I first moved out there, I had apple trees in the backyard. I used to dump them over Tommy's fence to feed his cattle out there. I oppose all the stuff going on Fairburn Road. I remember when that was a horse farm back over there. And I've been complaining about the way that the developer has left Beaumont Road over there. They did the road taps in there, poured concrete in it. They've paved the road up through there and did nothing with Beaumont Road. You go down the road, you hit those potholes there, people are swerving in oncoming traffic and miss everything. My career is I'm a builder. I've been building schools for the last since I built 19 schools over my career since '96. City of Atlanta and stuff like that. You need a school? I'll hook you up. That's all I got. The traffic, like everybody's been saying, the traffic around here, it's murder. But thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? I think we have 4 minutes left. Let's see, you've already had your 2 minutes.
Change my position. I'm now against this development. And I'm against any development in Douglas County until you can get the traffic fixed, because
You didn't state your name and address for the record.
Jeremiah Paranack, 3040 Beaumont Road. And I want to oppose this development and any other development, as was stated. Y'all work for us, and the traffic needs to be fixed. I'm a transportation engineer, civil engineer, and I understand that traffic is a problem that has to be fixed. And that's what I'm hearing, is that we got a traffic problem. And I oppose this development and any other development. In fact, if I could submit a recommendation that you would just go ahead and offer everybody to go to Cobb County or Fulton County with their developmental plans. With that, thank you very much. We do appreciate your service, and we know it's difficult for what you do. And Lord bless you, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Last 2 minutes.
I'm Karen Dale, and I live at 2885 Pope Road, and I am a rock throwing just right down the street where Tommy bought Adabelle's house that I knowed when I was a little girl. And I'm sorry to see Tommy selling, because we loved Tommy's pond, because we would go fishing over there, me and my husband, and we loved it over there. But I am against the townhomes. I would like to see houses built in there. And I have lived there all my life, and I lived in a brick house right across where Tommy bought. Like I said, a lady lived there all my life named Adabelle, and my parents lived in that house. And I know Phil Miller knowed my parents, and he probably knowed me. So, and that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to get in trouble.
It's been interesting. Do we have any time left? 2.5 minutes. Anybody else? Seeing no one moving, I'll close the public hearing. Planning and Zoning Board, you have heard the discussion. Do you have any questions of staff or the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, I have Rob Thomas, I have a question for staff on this first.
Yes, sir.
Can you put up similar to that kind of shows the two A and B sections? Okay, that's fine, yeah. So just for clarity for everyone, the A section is considered to be, is it urban or suburban?
That's the one that's urban residential, sir.
Urban residential.
Yes, sir.
And then the development in section B is considered suburban
Suburban living, yes, sir.
Can you explain the difference between the two? I mean, they cross street from each other, right? So,
Sure thing.
what made those two distinguished to be different?
Sure. I mean, so the short answer is you always have a boundary somewhere, right? And I think that in this instance, the boundary just kind of happens to be there along Bomar Road. I don't know if I can give you enough level of detail in this image. Probably not. That's probably too far zoomed out. But I think that, from the staff's perspective, when we first started working with the applicant on this project, we feel that, should the Bomar connector move forward, you have a good 8 to 10 years before you would actually see that develop. Comprehensive planning cycles are 5-year cycles, right? So our feedback when we first started talking about this tract in particular with the applicant is that we just don't contemplate a change in this area as a part of this comprehensive plan update. So there are older classifications in terms of the future land use in regard to the distinction between the suburban living and the urban residential, and we continue to work within those classifications. But in regard to this piece, we wouldn't anticipate any kind of significant change until we understand that the Bomar connector is more of a substantial thing that will be moving forward, and we understand the alignment and the impact. So again, it's very much our recommendation that, for the time being, this application for this kind of change in land use is premature in this area, and that's why we recommend denial.
You understand? But still, what's the difference between the two categories?
Right, and so the suburban living is a little bit more of what you kind of already see in that character area out there. So larger single-family detached homes on single-family detached lots. The urban residential still contemplates that type of land use, but also makes an accommodation for certain higher density development styles in areas that are considered appropriate for that. And this is not one we would consider appropriate.
So when's the next due date? How many more years until we have another comp plan revision?
So the comprehensive plan has to be updated in 5-year increments. We adopted our most current comprehensive plan in September of 2023. So you'll see us get started on that update process sometime around 2027 in anticipation of a 2028 adoption. Now again, the comprehensive plan can be amended, at interim intervals if that's the will of the board, and that's one of the requests before you. But in terms of any kind of significant update, we don't anticipate working on that again until 2027.
Well, a quick question. What's the current population here in Douglasville?
For the county, about 150,000.
150,000.
Yeah,
okay.
for round numbers.
Right, that's fine. And I just want to put that out. Yeah, I hear a lot of times people complain that, well, we don't have high-end restaurants, Trader Joe's, Cheesecake Factory, right? High-end clothing and retail stores, right? Right. You can clap for that, but the problem is we don't have enough rooftops. We have to have more population. These high-end companies won't come here if we don't have enough population. 150,000, not much. What is Cobb County?
About 750,000.
750,000.
Approximately.
So Cobb County gets those type of restaurants and high-end apparel. So I hear the pushback for growth, but there is a trade-off. We don't get Trader Joe's because we don't have the growth here. So I just want to put that out. But okay, so with this amendment to connect these together, currently the developer can do what they want with the A side, right? I mean, I say not what they want, but what they're already proposing with the A side, correct?
So the A side would be more compatible with the future land use map designation, but again, it's whether or not sort of the overall development is compatible. So just because the future land use map is compatible, the question as to whether or not the overall development fits in the area is still a decision for the board to make case by case with rezoning requests.
So what could they do right now, the way it is zoned currently in the suburban living? What could they do currently? Is it just R2 or is it more dense?
Right. So generally speaking, the residential low density designation, based on whether or not you have sewer or septic, you get a little bit of a different density calculation and a little bit of a different lot size. So, but right now, as it's currently zoned, it would be for single family detached residential.
On both sides, A and B.
Correct.
Right. But I'm saying there isn't any other difference the way it is right now between the two?
I'm sorry.
Any other density differences? Anything that I can distinguish, the developer could distinguish? In other words, Another developer comes in and they say, well, this thing doesn't fly today. Another developer come in, what could they do as is by right?
So again, I pulled it back to the zoning map because I would say this area is solidly residential, low density, and the neighborhoods that are built in this area are traditional single-family detached on larger lots. So if they're on septic, they build at 33,000 square foot lot sizes, and if they're on sewer, you can get a little bit smaller lot size. You can get down to 15,000 square feet. But looking at the map, again, part of the reason why staff would recommend that this needs to be denied is because neither A or B is in an area where the adjacent surrounding uses would give them any reason to think that they're in a transitional area between your single family detached and something that would warrant a little bit higher density. That's why we shared this map to kind of say, in this area, you're pretty much looking at single family detached.
Okay, so they could do single family detached by right now, so, okay. But just not as dense as they're asking their proposal to be right now. Okay, so I'm gonna put that out there for everybody to understand the difference between the urban and suburban. Okay, that's the only question I have for you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Any other questions, planning and zoning? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for whatever questions you folks may have.
Can I ask if I could have a rebuttal or at least answer to the table comment that was made during the staff presentation? Okay.
I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
No. If we want to go ahead with the questions from the board.
Okay. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments?
I do have a couple of questions for staff.
Commissioner?
So there is no, I guess, possibility or theory, or would you not recommend that they separate out the parcel A from parcel B?
For the purposes of this rezoning, we could certainly have that conversation. So you will recall we took the future land use map and the rezoning for the parcel B and kind of separated it from the rezoning for parcel A. So if the board was inclined to grant the rezoning on parcel A, you could certainly do that. If you were inclined to grant the rezoning for the entire project, that was the reason we shared that language initially, where you saw all of the requirements that come into play. Sorry, I cannot get my forward and backward correct. If you were inclined to grant the approval for the whole thing, there's a lot of regulations they're already going to have to comply with, so we're not proposing any additional conditions if you are inclined to grant the request. If you wanted to separate it or if you wanted to take the whole thing together.
And with the road extension that's coming through parcel B, I understand that we don't know exactly where that's going to cut through on parcel B. Is there any possibility that GDOT could come back and decide that it's also going to go through parcel A, or would it cause any issues in that area, or do we not know?
I would defer to Director Rana if he wants to speak to specifically the alignment. We have had that conversation with the applicant in DRC, and again, I'll defer to Director Rana to give you the details of that.
Good evening, Board. Commissioner, to your question about alignment, we do have a concept level alignment identified that presents majority impact on plan development B and very minimal frontage impact to plan development A. That alignment would only change if there are significant environmental impacts that cause that alignment to shift. Otherwise, we would approach the design phase with that alignment in mind. And with that, I would say there's very little chances for alignment shifting more towards A than it is towards B.
Thank you, Director Rana. I really have more comment than question, so I can let you all ask your questions and come back to me, or?
You can go ahead with your comments.
I appreciate and recognize that property owners have a right to do, use and enjoy their properties. I don't think any of us here are here to be obstructionist. I am not a Douglas County, lifelong resident. I moved here too, so I absolutely appreciate when development is appropriate so that you can bring in young, motivated talent, so that you can bring in people who are bringing higher incomes, diversity in thought, diversity in education, diversity in background. That's absolutely necessary. It is absolutely required. But as a society, we have to remember that we don't get to have singular use and enjoyment of something at the expense of everybody else. My concern as a resident of District 2 is I agree. It takes me 15, 20 minutes in the morning to get off of Riverside, and then an additional 20 minutes to get down Fairburn Road. So do we need development? Absolutely. Do I want to see Trader Joe's and Whole Foods here in Douglas County? Absolutely. I don't think that anybody is trying to deny the opportunity for us to have those things, but it has to be done in a way that is sustainable. And unfortunately, for many of the residents of District 2 right now, what we have is simply not sustainable. And to the young lady's comment earlier, it is making it a less enjoyable and less livable place. I think that planning and zoning, I think that transportation for the county are both departments that are doing a phenomenal job of thinking in terms of long-term growth, and I think it would behoove us to listen to their recommendations, particularly in a situation that may have dire consequences for future purchasers of these properties if we don't take our time and really think through what we are doing to this area. I feel for the family, the gentleman that's trying to sell this property. I appreciate his years of service to the county, his age and his wisdom, and I hope that we can find the right developer for that property. I do also appreciate the developer on this property getting creative with some of the fascia for the project, considering rear entries, trying to do things that will elevate Douglas County, because in addition to just having to have more density and rooftops, Trader Joe's isn't coming here if everything is a low quality development either. So we have to think about that as well. And so again, taking a job like this, it's going to be, you're never going to please everybody. It is what it is. If Jesus came down tomorrow, 50% of us would say he came too soon. So I get it. It's okay. I just want to make sure that we're thinking about everybody's use and quiet enjoyment of their property.
Sure. No, thank you. And I would also just, by way of response, say that you did hear me say in my staff presentation that the developer is willing to consider tabling for 30 days to see if he can address any of the concerns. So just want to remind you of that we have had that conversation. Staff is amenable to continuing to work to refine this plan if you feel like this is timely. Otherwise, we can continue to work with the developer through that 6 months if it is denied, and then obviously if it is approved, he'll advance to DRC for the next step. So,
thank you.
Anyone else? We're good.
Yes, Chairman.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Just want something for my commissioners and Planning and Zoning Board members to realize. 25 years ago, I lived off of Autumn Woods Court right there on Pope Road. So I realized that traffic, when you're trying to get out, it took me and my wife trying to get out in the morning to just go to work. That traffic was backed up from Manawaki Road way down the road, and no one would let you out. And we would sit there sometimes 15, 20 minutes at a time. You had to leave sometimes a half hour early just to get out on time. Then it would back up at Anawaki and 92. Not much has been developed. I know we got things in the future, but not much has been developed since then to help with that traffic situation. I appreciate this concept, but we have said with the previous board members, and I've heard people say, this concept is great, but it does not meet the characteristics, in my opinion, of that area. That area is, this might work great for somewhere else in our county, but this area right there is just simply, in my opinion, not it. I used to love, and when I was on Autumn Woods Court, backed up to the pet cemetery there, deer would just come walking through my backyard. That's what that area has, which District 4 is blessed with that as well. But I just want to keep that in mind, that this concept may be great, but it just really, I just don't think that this is the right time. Would I support probably some homes there on 1 acre lots? Totally different story for another day. And I know property rights, I absolutely am for field-bound property rights, but this concept belongs to me personally in a different area. I yield, Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else? Back to you,
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman.
Planning and Zoning, you've heard the comments and discussion. Do I have a motion on Z 2024-23? Because the zoning comes before the map amendment, right?
Actually, the map amendment would need to come first, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Yep,
map
so-
amendment. Do
so
I have a
map
motion
amendment.
on M 2024-05, the map amendment?
or Curry, on M2024-05. I request to deny based on staff recommendation.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, I second.
I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote on denial of M 2024-05. All in favor of that motion, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much.
If we could also, well, sorry, go ahead. If you wanted to go ahead and act on the zoning recommendation now, feel free to do so. If you would like to send it to the Board of Commissioners just to act on the map amendment, you could do that.
One
But
at a time.
I think you can go ahead and act on both of them and then kick both recommendations over to the Board of Commissioners for their decision.
Okay. Planning and Zoning Board, do I have a motion on Z 2024-23?
Or Curry, make a motion of Z 2024-23 to deny based on recommendation of staff.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Frank Payne, second.
I have a motion and a second. We have any discussion on the zoning? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to deny Z 2024-23, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Both Z 2024-23 and M 2024-05 come to the commission with a recommendation for denial, and that was unanimous.
Board of Commissioners, Z 2024-23 and M 2024-05, the map amendment comes to us from the Planning and Zoning Board with a recommendation of denial. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. We'll start with the map with M 2024-05 to be denied.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the map amendment. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. All right, that's the map amendment, sir. Do we have a motion on Z 2024-23?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we deny Z 2024-23.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Well, any discussion? I should have asked that, shouldn't I? No discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Our next agenda item, please, S 2024-33. Please. Okay, do you want to hold off a second and let the public exit? Thank you very much, folks, for coming to this meeting.
If y'all aren't here for the last case, y'all can leave, but don't sit in here and talk. If you need to kind of converse, head on out.
Now, please carry on your conversations outside.
Thank you.
Give us a minute, Phil. We lost the commissioner or something. That's good meeting. So far, so good.
You want me to close the door back there?
When they all get out.
Still short of commissioner.
Yeah.
Short of commissioner.
I think it probably went to the restaurant.
vacation.
You on vacation?
Okay, Mr. Schaefer.
Our last case this evening, S 2024-33, special use permit for Paul Robinson. What we have here is a request to basically reinstate a special use permit for mini warehouse storage units. This property was approved some years ago for warehouses, and they were never built. The applicant's proposing to modify the originally approved plans for the project and construct a two-story mini warehouse storage facility and a separate leasing office in the front of the property with additional storage capacity in that building. The site plan proposes two climate-controlled buildings with 60,000 square feet of rental storage space units per floor. The rear building would be a two-story building. Originally, Robbie was approved for a one-story, several one-story buildings, so this is coming back to us for an overall plan. The developer is going to be purchasing this property from Mr. Robinson in order to build this. For whatever reason, Robbie doesn't build many warehouses, so this developer would take that over. The other building up front, 12,000 square feet with a leasing office. In addition, and I'll show you the site plan in a moment, there'll be approximately 18 gravel spaces for RVs in the back. The property is on Anawake, I should say, special use permit for storage on Anawake Road. It's land lot 89, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 51. It's 8.9 acres in District 3. Community information meeting was held on June 11th, and a number of neighbors did come and express concerns. Obviously, the dollar store in the front has a reputation, and there's a bit of issue with some of the trash that goes on in that dollar store's property. The back property, of course, has been graded to a degree. There was a pond dug a number of years ago. That's part of the actual stormwater management system for the front of the property. With this development, they would have to redo some of that stormwater management in the rear and move it over a bit so that it works for both the front store as well as the rear building. The relevant code sections, of course, are Article 3 for the mini warehouses and self-storage units. We've got Article 4, Section 415 for CH, so you've got some commercial standards. Division 8, Article 8, Division 3, that's zoning buffers were required because this is commercial up against some residential properties, so there's some zoning buffer requirements. And then Article 12 is kind of the critical one. That's the vesting and zoning changes. So as you hear our chair read every meeting, 24 months, you've got to do something within that time frame or you lose your vesting. This is a case where the prior approval vested for 2 years and that expired in August of 23. So the vesting period has ended. So again, you would have to come back and recertify or reauthorize the special use permit for the mini warehouses in this zone district. In addition, we have a height issue and a size issue. So the special use permit is both for allowing a little bit additional height for a two-story building as well as up front there's a architectural feature that's 2 stories high. So you have that piece of it. And then again, the size of the building being over 50,000 square feet for, a single building in Douglas County. Now, when you want to do these size buildings over 50,000 square feet, you're going to need a special use permit. That's one of the issues that we fixed last year when we had that issue with the dollar store in Chapel Hill, as well as some of the warehouses. So that was fixed. The prior zoning actions on this property are 1981, rezoned from R2 to C2 for which is now CH, for commercial activity. That involved some of the issues back then that now allowed for that dollar store to eventually get built in the front. And then in the back, nothing was done. A cell tower was built in the in-between. In 95, again, the special use land use permit was authorized for storage. And then in 21, again, the special use permit for the mini warehouse was originally authorized. So that's where we're at with that. The amendment would allow, again, for this to proceed. Some of the comments I would make, the rearmost building is laying within a pond that was excavated by the previous owner, but because it's a pond, it's covered now by state waters law. So the statutes are going to require them to go to the Department of Natural Resources, and they're going to have to be extra permitting so EPD can review it. The WSA is our local rep for that engineering review, so they would take care of that in our DRC process. And again, it would have to do with stormwater management, and the pond that's there would have to be moved, have to be re-engineered so that it can cover the entire site's drainage capacity and
be able to handle both the front and the back. In terms of Section 1211, what I would explain is, again, this is the vesting section of the Unified Development Code. If you don't act within 24 months to accomplish the request for actually getting a building permit approved or doing some of the other work that needs to be done in terms of getting the county to say yes, where you have spent money and effort in reliance on an approval tonight, for instance, then you lose the ability to do what you were authorized to do. And so this evening, they're asking for reauthorization. One thing I would point out, if you are inclined not to approve this evening, I would ask that you rescind the original special use permit so that we can just start from scratch, just on the off chance that you would not want this there. It was approved once, but this is a little different concept than what was originally approved. But I would ask you just, if in making a recommendation or a condition on this denial, then go back and rescind the original special use. As far as the zoning, the property is, it's split zoned. There's RLD, residential low density, as well as CH. It's a little mixed because it's described but not parceled. So the zoning doesn't follow parcel lines. It was described in the original application cases as this portion in front is this, and this portion in back is this. It's loose. So again, that's from years ago, how they used to handle the cases. You could get the split zoning. We don't do that anymore. You get one zone district on your property. We don't allow the split zoning anymore. And this is just an aerial to show you. The front property is the dollar store, and the small square is, of course, the cell tower that was authorized some years back. And then the rear, as you can see, has both a detention pond as well as excavation that went on over the years. That'll have to be filled in and fixed. And then here on the left is, it's a little small for you to see, I realize, and then that's the site plan, and then the other on the right is a survey of the property. A little bit larger, might be a little easier to see, just to show you that the property is being fully developed. There is some issue at the back where we do need to adjust the location of the building in a little bit because of the requirement for incompatible zoning buffer. So there is a little issue that we have to fix there, or they'll have to ask for a variance. In terms of the elevations, they were submitted. This is a description here so you can see what properties are. The building portions that you will see, this is the front building, and this is what you would see. It's a combinations of brick and brick soldiers and hardy plank, and again, a little bit of metal in terms of some of the little pieces of it, so you have some decorative metal portions and some metal siding as well on the lower building. That's the front building, again, the front building, and then this is the rear building. You're looking on the top from the north at the rear of the building, so that piece would never be seen from the street. The south elevation would be seen potentially as you drive in, but it'd be very difficult to see it from the street because the property drops off quite a bit in the back. Here's the existing street entrance in from Anawake. As you're looking, the dollar store is there on the left. The street would continue back. The smaller building would be there in the trees on the right, and then the rear would be where the new building would be going. Again, it's 2 stories, so as the property drops back down, what they're proposing is a basement level at the very rear to be entered from the very rear at the lowest level, and then the top floor on that building would be entered from the front. So you can kind of get an idea of how that will work. Here we're looking west on Anawake towards the dollar store and the intersection there that's traffic light. The sewer is on the south side of the road. They will have to connect to the same sewer that the dollar store is connected to, so that's a piece of the puzzle. Staff has reviewed the request against the special use criteria, and it is supported in terms of the request. It was issued once before, and so they're just seeking to reauthorize the original request. Staff is recommending approval with the finding that the use will not modify the land use plan, the intent, purpose, or spirit of the Douglas County Unified Development Code, and the granting of the special use permit will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. And then the conditions are that the applicant must submit to the Development Review Committee for review and consideration the site-specific development and access management plans to address the development standards in our UDC and the concerns and requirements that were expressed in some of the agency impact statements reviewed in the staff report dated August 31st, 2021, which was original. That's should be July 9th, 2024. Apologies. And then any other of property not any other of the properties so that were uses identified in the table 2.2. If you need to do another special use permit, we ask you to come back for those. And then the directive to staff is to go out a year at the annual anniversary and just verify if it was done according to code. If it wasn't, we'll report back to you, and then we can always bring it back for a show cause hearing if something wasn't done appropriately. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. At this point in time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone, including the applicant or the applicant's representative, would like to speak in favor, please approach the podium. You have 2 minutes per person for an allocated time of 15 minutes.
Yes, sir. I'm Paul H. Robinson. My nickname's Robbie. That's why everybody's calling me Robbie. I'm at 4025 Anawake Road, right down the street from the project. I got this approved 2 years ago. I took on too much that year. I've been building in Douglas County for 55 years, and I know I look younger than that, but it's no. But it's a great little project. The reason it's so good, it sits down behind the Dollar General. It's at a red light that I've already got installed. It won't be visible from the street. It'll be visible by the unit up front that shows it is a mini warehouse down below. It needs to be. There's no mini storage out there. There's lots of rooftops. So this will be the only one in that area. And all the mini warehouses are about 90%. Of course, there are some new ones coming online, but there's none down in South Douglas. So it's a great project that needs to be, it'll be fulfilled very quickly.
Thank you. Before you leave.
Yes, sir.
You heard the 2 conditions that were read in. Are you in agreement with those conditions?
I have no problem with those.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please approach the podium. You would have 2 minutes per person.
Hey, good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name's Doug Steverson. I'm with Boardwalk Development Group, so I'm the developer working with Robbie on this project.
Address?
1325 Satellite Boulevard. So I just wanted to...
Where?
I'm sorry, that's Swanee.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out, so I've heard a lot of talk about the residential developments and the impact on the infrastructure. I want to highlight self-storage is very low impact. So it would improve the property values and thus the taxes to the county. But, you know, a busy day sees 10 cars go to a self-storage facility. It's very low impact. So I just wanted to highlight it wouldn't add traffic. It wouldn't add, you know, stress to the EMS or fire department. It's very low impact and yet high tax. So that's all I wanted to point out.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Seeing no one moving, I will close the public hearing in favor and open the public hearing in opposition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please approach the podium. You two would have 2 minutes per person for an allocated time of 15 minutes.
I'm Pat Garner, and I live at 4193 Highway 5. And actually, what I need first before I oppose, I certainly don't have a problem with storage. I have a problem with an RV park if it's going to be occupied with people.
This is not an RV park. This is simply a storage facility.
Okay, so...
And it does have, the proposal does have
18
spaces for RVs to store.
To
not for
store,
people
but
live
not
in.
to... Oh, is it? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please approach the podium.
Hi, good afternoon, Board. Bridget Bailey, 5070 Wild Oak Trail, District 3 resident. I've been a resident of Douglas County since 1998, and I moved here because I was attracted to the density and also to the land. It's beautiful here. Recently, it's not becoming a beautiful place. I'm very disappointed in some of the approvals, zoning approvals that have been done in terms of the significant amount of apartments and townhomes in this area. I understand that we need affordable housing for everyone, and we need use in term, not multi-use, but multi-family residential areas, but at some point, enough is enough. I'm disappointed in the approvals that have been given in recent years for warehouses, light commercial. We've got enough data centers, we've got enough RV parks, we've got enough storage units. No offense. We have 9 storage units within a 5 to 10 mile radius of this proposed unit. We had one just open up by the mall. We have 2 or 3 on Fairburn Road. And I should have written down the addresses, but my 2 minutes would not allow me to be able to speak on that. At some point, we have to start having smart development in Douglas County. Smart development is not warehouses, it's not Dollar Generals, it's not nail shops, it's not car washes. We've got enough of that. And no, we'll never get Trader Joe's if we keep having that type of development in this community. It's not necessarily about the size and the number of rooftops. I did want to address that. Let's look at Peachtree City with a population of only 39,000 plus as of 2022. They've got Sprouts, nice shopping. So it's not about rooftops. It's about what you do, your traffic, what you attract to your community. If we don't have those types of conducive conditions here in Douglas County, we'll never get that. We'll never see a Sprouts. We'll never see a Trader Joe's. We'll never see even a Maggiano's, as basic as that may be. We just won't even see that because we don't have the type of development that those people who are looking to make those kind of investments are willing to do. You've got to hire an economic development director who is marketing and actually seeking to get that kind of development in this county. And all I see are continued warehouse after warehouse after warehouse after warehouse. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Could you state your name and address?
My name's Olivia Buckner. I live at 4514 Glider Circle. I present myself today because I did a 9.1 mile radius. We have 17 storage houses. Are we trying to build one for every homeowner? That's what it seems. We have enough. This will bring our property value down. The road outside has enough potholes in it. We don't need more. I heard the gentleman say that they will be storing RVs there. Next thing you know, you have boats, you have people living out of the RVs. It's trifle. We don't need that in our area. Our area is set for children to be able to walk across the street, to buy ice cream, to be safe. This will bring more cars on Annie-Wakey Road. The second thing is, please preserve our area. Don't put that commercial there. We don't need it. 17 warehouses in a 9.1 mile radius is enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? You'd state your name and address in 2 minutes.
My name is Jeffrey Buckner, and I live at 4514 Glider Circle. And, and for you guys to consider a warehouse being moved into a residential area, that's crazy. I mean, it's nothing but housing in that area. All the commercial is farther down on Fairburn Road. Why are we bringing commercial in a residential area? It's nothing but houses. That's gonna destroy our property. The Dollar General right up the street there is not taken care of. And what's to say the same thing with this property here? It starts off looking good, but then on down the line, it starts looking like crap. We live there. We're the residents that live in that area. We don't need another warehouse in our area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one moving, I'll close the public hearing. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the discussion, you've heard the comments. Do we have any questions of staff or Mr. Robinson?
Rob Thomas, I have a question with staff first. So I saw the timeline earlier where it shows he was accepted, permitted, didn't vested, came back, accepted, permitted, wasn't vested, get 24 months to do it in. So if this does not pass today, what could this property be used for based on the usage as it's currently set?
The numbers of uses that are already in the CH commercial district.
Okay, so is CH heavy commercial, what conditions? Okay, so it's already zoned, and I'm just putting this out for everyone, obviously I know this, but it's already zoned heavy commercial, it's already been approved, so we're not here to change the zoning in this case, we're just here to do a special use permit to use it for this particular use, but it's already been approved, we've already done this several times already. So this is, and it's been approved a couple times. One time since I've been on the board. So, you know, I remember this. And I live in this district, so right up the street from this, I live, you know, not that far from this. I pass that every morning going to work. So I'm very familiar with the area. And I also don't think that it's going to impact. Was there a traffic impact done on this?
No, not for this one.
Okay, and reason why?
Low impact.
Because it was so low that it wasn't even worth to even do it. Okay.
Their average of 10 to 15 cars a day is
10 to 15 cars a
does
day.
not warrant a traffic study.
Mm-hmm. Right. How many units? Well, I guess I'll get that question to him in a minute. But so it's already heavy commercial, meaning there's several uses can already be done. Where flex spaces could be put there, which is like a warehouse, just divided into different sections. So I guess the lesser of the evils is what I look at when I look at this particular applicant of what else could be there. And I think this would be more of a lower impact than what else could be there, being that is already zoned heavy commercial. So the other question I have was for the Mr. Robinson there.
Yes, sir.
So it's been, like I said, the timeline's been twice already. You've been here, once since I've been here. What happened before? Let's talk
Well,
about
I
that.
just took on too much to do. I developed a subdivision retirement community in Pell City and one in Villa Rica, and I just ran out of time. We came up to do it, and they informed me, oh, you lapsed out a month ago, and so that's what the delay was. The community there's enough rooftops to keep people from having to drive all the way into these other mini warehouses in Douglasville. So it actually saves a ton of traffic, having it right there in a community, in a commercial zoning, right there at a red light, very low impact. And it's not visible from the road. The road level, it drops off 20 feet down in the back, so the warehouse actually won't even be seen.
I understand. And you went over that before, but really that was
Yes,
my
sir.
question I'm trying to drill down here is, who to say you're gonna not move forward on this time?
We're ready. We're ready to
So
start.
are you gonna
We're
be
ready.
in this development, or is someone else gonna be doing this? Or
Yes, sir.
what's
These
involved?
gentlemen have about 8 warehouses that they're doing right now, so
Mm-hmm.
they'll be starting right away.
And we say warehouses, and make
It's
sure we're
mini
clear,
warehouses.
we're talking mini warehouses.
10 by 10 spaces, 10 by 20 spaces.
Right. So you have talk about you mentioned there's gonna be a office in the front, or what have you. Can you kind
Yes, sir.
of talk about the development of it?
Yes, sir. There'll be a small office in the front that'll show that it is a mini storage facility for the community. That'll be what'll be up front. And then the road will go down into the project where the 2-story project storage will be.
And you say you can't see this from Anahuac or anything
You
like
might
that?
see the very top roof. That'll be the end of it.
Okay.
It's like 30 feet drop from Anahuac Road to the bottom of the.
And what was the projected amount of units?
80.
Approach the mic. State your name and address.
My apologies. Gilder Robles, 7303 Burson Place, Flowery Branch, Georgia. The building on the front, I will have around 75 units. The building on the back, the large 2-story building, will have around 700 units.
What needs to be enclosed, meaning?
See, most of the units will be enclosed.
Well, I mean air conditioning enclosed, not just
right.
a front door. I mean, that's a roll-up door. I'm saying enclosed as in air conditioning closed.
That's correct.
That's correct, okay.
Meaning climate controls storage. Most of them are. There are few along the front of each level. I think there are around 30 on each level that will be what we call drive-up units. They are not climate control. And those are usually used by contractors. They need quick access. They don't need climate control.
Okay. What's your hours of operation?
Hours of operation, typically, we are open 9 to
9:30 to 6.
So you have a contractor there that, say, using this as like a flex space. What would their hours be? So I'm saying someone that actually renting one of the lower units,
Right.
and they're using it as a contractor's office.
No.
That won't be.
No.
Okay, that's make sure what the restrictions are.
It's only for storage.
Okay,
That's correct.
so they can only store there. Only they can't use it as an office.
That's
Correct.
correct.
Okay, let's make sure we're clear on that. All right,
That's
good.
correct.
And you said the hours are just typical hours, 9 to 6. You said, or around there. 9:36. Okay, and you'll have a couple of people there manning it throughout the day.
Yes.
Okay, it would be card entrance, or how do you get
Yes.
in? Just automated entrance.
Yes, it will be gated. There will be a keypad, so only the tenants will have access to this facility.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Ori Curry, I know they talked about parking. You said like RV parking or something that's going to be placed there. How many parking spaces, what type of lighting, and what type of fencing?
So parking, I think we're showing 18, if I'm not mistaken, and those are typically for boat and RV. So anybody in the neighborhood that cannot park an RV in the community because of the restrictions will have a place there to park the RV or the boat.
Okay, and will it be paved or will it be gravel?
Our current plan is for gravel parking.
It's gravel?
Gravel parking.
Okay, and what type of lighting and fencing?
Fencing, we typically do the chain link, and we follow the code when it comes to the height of the fence, the finish. The gate, the automatic gate will be aluminum Romero.
And what about the lighting? Because, you know, you kind of close to residential, you
Right.
commercial, but
Right.
right down the street from there are some homes. What type of lighting?
It's all down lighting.
It's all down lighting?
And you won't even see it from the street because it's mounted on the buildings, shining down. It's not like up on telephone poles. They're actually
Okay.
on the buildings, shining down.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're what we call wall packs. They are attached to the building and they shine down.
Okay, and security?
Security in the form of, there will be the gate, fence, and then cameras throughout the property.
I have no other questions.
Any other questions, planning and zoning? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, I'll throw it over to the Board of Commissioners for any questions you may have of the applicant or staff.
Yes, sir. Board of Commissioners, do you have any questions that you'd like to have of the staff?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
So the first one is for staff. So from a zoning perspective, you said it's currently zoned for heavy commercial, is that correct? What would it take for it to be rezoned to residential?
A request? Just a request from the owner to rezone it back to residential? Or a map amendment like we've seen this evening, the rezonings?
Okay. So given that, and that's good to know there, and again, I think I'm still a little fuzzy about the whole RV.
So RV storage,
So let's
not
talk a little bit
RV
about-
parking, just RV storage, boat storage. If you've got a unit that you can't put at the house, that's what those 18 spaces would be. It's an accessory use to a storage principal use. Many of these facilities will ask specifically, can we please have extra room on the side, gravel parking, so we can fit the oversized vehicles on this property, and that's what they're asking for. It's very modest. The one on Highway 5 that was mentioned earlier, in terms of RV parking, it had a much larger area that was dedicated to it, which eventually, of course, they had to abandon to turn into a stormwater management, but there would be 30 or 40 units that could have been parked out there. So it's pretty normal to have that as a gravel. The rest of it will be paved, however. The roads in and around the buildings will all be paved.
Okay. And then what would be the direct impact to the Dollar General parking lot?
None. The only interaction is at the entrance. The small building at the top has its own parking area across the street or across the entry driveway from the Dollar General. So there would be no interaction other than cars coming in and out have to look out for each other. The few handful of cars that might come in for the storage unit and the cars coming in and out of the dollar store. They share the road.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you. And this is more of a comment. So I appreciate the staff doing the due diligence and coming back with a recommendation based on the requirements and the rules and the regs. But I'm going to be honest. I've been out in the community. I've heard from the community. The residents do not want additional car washes, Dollar Generals, and storage facilities in that area. So based on the needs, and I live in the community, and I know how close other storage facilities are and that have been recently built in the area, that I'm going to respectfully say that this will be a denial from my perspective, and specifically standing up for the residents in that community. Mr. Chairman, I yield the floor back to you.
Do we have any more questions or comments?
I just had a couple of questions. Is there a demand in the community for RV parking?
Yes, ma'am. The community that everything south of Central Church Road, there is no storage facility. So everything in that south, all the way down Chapel Hill, all the way back in the back of those new subdivisions just been built, there's no place for those people to store extra stuff that they have at their homes. So it's a big demand where we are to have this many storage. And it's not, that's why the 18 storage for RVs is only restricted to 18, because that's about the amount that'll be needed there in the facility. But it gets people where they don't have to travel all the way to Douglasville to store their stuff or to pick their stuff up. So it's a definite need there for the community, not against the community, but for the community.
And while we've been in this meeting, I looked it up. Just between Highway 92 and Bill Art, there are 12 full-service mini warehouse storage facilities between public storage and self-storage and other smaller brands. So when you're, and then also in the city of South Fulton, there's 2 additional brand new ones that, depending on which side of 92 and 166 you live on, that actually may be closer to you than even this location. So what are you basing it on that there's nothing convenient? Just less than 2.5 miles down the road on Fairburn Road, there's a full service self-storage warehouse unit also.
Yes, ma'am, and everything is 95% full in Douglas County. So everything below us, there's nothing. There's nothing south of Central Church Road. There's nothing. There is some in Douglasville, and there is some on Highway 5, because I built 2,000 of them here in Douglas County. There is some on Highway 5 and on 92, but there is none down Chapel Hill, Anawake Road, Central Church Road, everything south of there exists none. So those people have to travel all the way to Douglasville to do any type of storage, and then all the way back. So we're sitting there right with a Dollar General, a filling station across the street, at a red light. It's a perfect place for people to get in and out safely.
And at that, you mentioned in terms of security that it'll be gated.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
there'll be lighting.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
there will be cameras.
Yes, it's a total secure facility.
So I guess my concern or hesitation on this project is there's already vagrancy issues at the Dollar General that is already there. This to me seems like, because of the seclusion of that area, that this is an attractive nuisance for vagrants. We already have that issue. We already have issues with people dumping at that Dollar General. And so if there's not a manned person there, and I'm not in any way suggesting how you should run your business, but it just seems to me like this is an additional location that's going to lend itself to more of what the residents don't want to see.
Actually, it'll help in the area because of the security. You know, that's the problem now. It's just open land. People ride their bicycles, their motorcycles, their four-wheelers behind it. It's actually going to help that area.
I mean, the people are doing it directly in front of the Dollar General on the road frontage, visible to the street. So I'm not sure that having additional cover, an additional place for people to be behind RVs parked back there, I have serious concerns from a public safety perspective that this is just going to attract more of that to this area because of the seclusion of where it's located.
The more businesses you have there that are congregated there, the more security you have, and that'll prevent that. The Dollar General does have some. We complain about it all the time, but the more security you have there, the better that's going to be.
My last question's for staff, actually. During the presentation, you all mentioned that we could rescind the prior approval because it is not vested within the 2 years. What would we be rescinding it to? It would still be commercial, I presume.
It would still be commercial, it would just be rescinding the special use approval.
Specifically for the warehouses.
Specifically for mini storage.
Thank you. I yield back, Chair.
Okay. Mr. Vice Chair.
Not trying to sway one for the other, but as our planning and zone board member down there mentioned earlier, please understand this is commercial. Someone's going to eventually try to put something there. It's a question of what do you want there? Because here you're talking about a very low traffic area. It's going to be secured. Or something else might come down there, such as manufacturing plant and everything that might run 24 hours a day. It's a commercial zoned area. Someone's going to want to build something there. So I'm not saying this against any residents, but I'm just letting you know, people are always trying to find areas to build something in our county. That's a commercial area, which is highly sought right now. I'm telling you, I'm fighting in District 4. We got the most rural area. I'm fighting it left and right. Something's going to come. So just understand what you choose. Something else might come that you might have wished you got this. But that's all I'm going to say. I yield, Chairman. Understood. I'm just saying. I yield, Chairman.
Any more comments? Back to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Planning and Zoning Board, you've heard the comments, the discussion. Do I have a motion on S 2024-33?
Chairman Rob Thomas, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve S 2024-33, request a special use permit to allow for self-storage facility and with all the conditions read in by staff.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, it's Kurt Nichols, and I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Planning and Zoning Board, do we have any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving S 2024-33 as read into the record, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you very much. All opposed? Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
S 2024-33 comes to you with a request for approval with the conditions read into the record.
Board of Commissioners, S 2024-33 comes to us from the Planning and Zoning Board for approval, and I'd put that in a motion to approve it also. Do I have a second? Having no second, motion fails.
Chairman, someone that can offer up a second motion.
All right.
Someone can offer up a second motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a second motion. I would like to make a motion that we deny S 2024-33 and additionally rescind the special use permit as well at this time.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. to rescind S 2024-33 for the special use permit, is that correct?
That's correct.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Back to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Having nothing else to come for Planning and Zoning Board, our meeting is adjourned. Mr. Chairman.
Ours is too, thank you.